Sorry. Hi everyone. Sorry, just bear with me. I'm just trying to get set up here. How am I going to do that? It's a pain. Whoops. Sorry, bear with me. I'm just the last day. Oh, goodness me. Get that to stand. Is that going to stay? Okay, now why can't you see me? Why has my screen gone completely blank? Oh, is it because I've turned the camera around? Didn't actually know you could do that. Didn't even know you could turn the camera around on that. Oh, hi everyone, hope you're doing okay. I thought I'd come on and give you some information from the last day. And thank you to those of you who've been sending me information. Really appreciate it, because it is proving very important in all of this. And the evidence is just mounting continuously, to be honest. And the reason for me doing these lives is to A, try and convince you to do something, B, let them know that their entire system is now fully exposed, to corner them into a position where they're you know, there's not really a way out for them in this, and they're going to have to make a decision on what they do. And also potentially to try and get them to, for those of them that don't believe there's a consequence in what they're doing, to maybe start understanding, you know, that there is a creator potentially, I believe, and that if they continue, then there's going to be eternal consequences for them. And if I can show the evidence that is pointing towards who I may be in this, then that could be what changes this and turns this around. So I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that tonight. But I'm just going to read you, before I read that, actually, I'm just going to give a little bit of a summary. And I know some of you have probably heard me saying this so many times before, just so people know who I am, who are watching this. So my name is Gary Waterman, and I am a former UK police constable. I was in Kent Police, first of all, from 2000 until 2006, and then I transferred to Dorset from 2006 until 2018. And then in 2022, I started uncovering evidence through a company that I was part of, leading into the most critical evidence in all of history. I'm not even exaggerating. It is literally tying in with falsified prophecies, in with the Vatican, potential end of creation, although I pray and I hope that's not going to happen. It really does explain all of the world's problems, why many of you are suffering from being overworked, why many people are suffering from mental health issues, why many people have been getting cancer, why many people have lost loved ones through suicide, why there's a disparity between the rich and poor, international conflicts, the terrorisms, domestic and international terrorism, the water problems with the water, the pollution, pretty much, you know, all world problems, even it seems with the weather manipulation tying into it, and the potential earthquakes, okay, which is some of the things we're going to be talking about in a moment. So over the last few days, I have been releasing evidence about my ring to try and help support evidence of who I may be in this. Let me just turn this torch off. Now, somebody has said to me, Gary, you do realize that everything's been made up, and whatever Jesus's name was, that's all a lie, and Jesus never existed. I suspect that's not the case. I'm fairly confident. I doubt his name was Jesus, but I'm fairly confident that that person existed. All three Abrahamic faiths, I think, confirm somewhere along there within their scriptures that that person existed. And let's face it, the foundation of that person, loving thy neighbor, okay, and treating everyone how you want to be treated, and not be involved in, you know, the victimization of others, is critical for the foundation of moral conscience, which we know we've got within us in a rational state of mind. So that is Jesus, we'll call him Jesus, is a symbol, if you like, of our moral conscience of righteousness. Now, the whole system they've got in place is completely inverted, all right? And we're going to be talking about a little bit about some more information in relation to that. I am certain, based on the evidence that I've got at the moment, now, of course, it's open to change, that the alien, shapeshifter, and lizard conspiracy is a deception, okay, to try and explain away everything that I'm starting to uncover and that's been going on. Now, obviously, with all of the evidence suggesting who I may be in this, which we'll come to some of that in a minute, we've got to remember that this was before I even knew about the fraud, okay? So it's not as if this information is being staged because I've identified the fraud and somehow they're using this information in relation to me to try and undermine me and discredit me because of the fraud. It was before that, well before that. You know, you've got evidence from when the day I was born, linking in with this. You've got evidence going back to my family for the connection to the Cray twins, for example, before I was born. You've then got, and we're going to be talking about some more things that are now really starting to make a lot of sense in all of this. So, you know, otherwise I'd be thinking, okay, well, they've staged all of this information to make it appear as though I am somebody to somehow undermine or discredit me or provide a distraction after I've identified the fraud. But it's before the fraud, before I even knew about the fraud, everybody, okay? So we need to understand it. So why would they have done that? And the big question is, why would they have staged it if it's going to expose all of them to the international government fraud and the crimes against the children and all of these things that we're talking about? It's a huge question. Why expose yourselves by setting up events to get me to find evidence to maybe suggest who I am in this? And then, of course, you've got the evidence of my dreams. Now, obviously, I've thought, okay, well, maybe they are manipulating my thoughts and process somehow. But then you've got the fact that as I've had dreams that's led to evidence that I've then uncovered the next day and then looked at information that's happened to lead to more evidence. Now, you could say, well, they've positioned that evidence. But again, you've got to come to ask the question, well, why expose themselves to the crimes against the children by providing me with that evidence? Just doesn't really make sense. And then you've got the fact that there was some when I was thinking about some of the, you know, for example, the why the scripture mentions fire and brimstone, and me just thinking about it at that point as I was looking at the evidence. Why fire and brimstone? What is this all about? And then me turning to the next company, and there is the word brimstone. Now, they would have had to have been controlling my thoughts and the technology at that exact time that I was thinking it. I just don't believe, I think there's too much, right? So then you come back to, it's divine. And then you've got to ask the question, well, why am I being used as a channel for a divine intervention to provide a key with this evidence to bring a new system on Earth to safeguard the potential and prevent the potential end of creation and the continuation of the apparent crimes against the children, which they're telling us about? So everything is just stacking up that we're you know, it really is building as to who I may be in all of this. Now, I'm just going to read you my police report that I submitted yesterday, just so you're aware of what I'm doing. And I know I've put it on my social media, but I just want to read this out. And I'm not looking at my questions at the moment, so please forgive me. I will come to the questions later. So this is a police report that I submitted yesterday to the Metropolitan Police, and I submitted it at 15:50 hours. And the reference number is ROC Romeo Oscar Charlie -14478-26 -0155 India Romeo 04. Okay, it's a Metropolitan Police reference number that you get once it's a receipt number. So it's confirmation that they've received that report and you get this reference back. So I know that they've got this evidence. And it says, I am a former Dorset police constable, and since 2022, I have acquired irrefutable and verifiable evidence of international government fraud that continues to knowingly facilitate the laundering of money in relation to international conflicts, terrorism, drug trafficking, and serious crimes against children that appears to be specifically related to blood and organ harvesting being hidden through the horse bloodstock trade and international drug trafficking network. The evidence converges on the blood, on the Vatican, and technology appearing to be used to cause illnesses to the masses to ensure that their blood and organs can be harvested through the healthcare system. And other technology appearing to be capable of producing earthquakes and weather manipulation to lead to falsified prophecies as the system becomes exposed. Now, I haven't put this in the report, they were already aware of this, but it's very clear that as I was exposing this evidence, huge events took place, everybody, leading to falsified prophecies. The invasion of Ukraine, a collaborative staged deception, the attacks in Hamas on the 7th of October 2023. This is as I'm exposing the evidence, everybody, all right? And it was days after that, on the 26th of October 2023, when they first publicised, for the first time since 1844, proposals to verify company registrations on the Companies House system. Now, that's not going to be a coincidence, everybody. First time since 1844. Just reading on in the police report, it says it is now obvious that the entire system, the governments and their organisations had been established specifically around this criminal network, and it being linked to blood likely being used to extend the lives of a select few whilst the innocent are being harvested. And what I mean by that is taking the blood through the healthcare system and organ harvesting, using undertakers to assist that with fake burials, fake cremations. Okay, there's proof that this is all going on now, everybody. All right, they're even telling us through some of the police reports or the news reports that are coming on now, as they're being compelled through the evidence to start disclosing some of the truth in this. It is now obvious, remarkably, significant evidence is now supporting that I may be an important, where's it gone? I may be an important bloodline and possibly the last in that line, with connections having been made to the Knights Templar, to Rome, to the Honourable Society of the Knights of the Round Table, and key individuals to a doomsday cult and falsified prophecies, along with other evidence to support this. I appear to be at the centre of everything going on. Having publicised some of this evidence on the 17th of April 2026, the night before last, I believe, at 1600 hours yesterday, an event occurred showing that people had been sent to locate me after the disclosure. And I have to assume that it is to possibly take my life or to unlawfully imprison me and then take my life because of that disclosure. I am able to provide evidence to support everything I'm saying and require you to send me an email marked as urgent for me to be able to send you the evidence as soon as possible. As you will be aware, I've submitted around 50 reference police reports and sent emails to relevant individuals, all of which are being ignored. In the interests of the children and humanity, this police report and a photograph or video of those trying to locate me will be placed in the public domain. Now, I'll just count because I keep forgetting about answering. This is a live. Before I go into some of the evidence, I'm just going to look at the comments and see if anyone's got any questions. And then I'm going to talk about some very important evidence thanks to other people. Thanks for your comment. I am Spirit. Phew, I was worried about you. Yes, thanks, Sue, very much. I ended up, what I did is I went close to the tent and I basically sat for a while from it, just listening to see if there was any activity around my tent. And then I thought, I'm just going to go to the tent, and I just went and slept, and I'm still here and I'm alive. And, it's possible they can't hurt me. I don't know. But this guy yesterday was 100% definitely sent to find me. But that might have been deliberate. All right. He was wearing an RNLI shirt, which they would have known I was picked up on. Big letters with RNLI on it. Well, that's Royal National Lifeboat Institute. Well, that's very relevant to Poole, where my investigation began, right next to Bournemouth. And I actually went to the RNLI main building, which is in Poole, for a conference when I was in the police. So they'd already known I disclosed that. So they possibly arranged it to make me think, possibly. However, they would have had to have timed me coming out of a footpath at the exact same time that he was coming along another footpath. Now, I don't believe they're watching me wherever I go. I think they have people watching me when I'm going to certain locations. In fact, I'm almost certain of it. Hence, you had this helicopter that flew literally as I stepped outside of the building. It flew right over me, and then it was basically hovering over where I would normally go. And then there was police cars trying to either actually locate me or make me think that they were trying to locate me. And then that night, I ended up sleeping in a bag under a bush to try and preserve me and preserve the evidence through me. I have to assume they were trying to find me, and to do something. Well, let's have a look at the other comments. Hi, everyone. Hope you're doing okay. Thanks very much for coming on. We really need to get as many people on here. I didn't advertise it, okay, but we need as many people on here. So if you can send people messages, please get it out to as many people as you can. Thanks, Daleen or Daleen. I really appreciate your comment. Happy to see me. Thank you so much. I'm okay. A bit tired, but thank you very much, Mary. Really appreciate it. I'm proud of you. Jesus is inside you. You are correct that you are Jesus. Jesus is consciousness. Yeah, I don't know the full explanations of all of this. Of course, I don't. Nobody really does. But what you can do through the evidence is get a fairly good idea as to what's going on. And I think we're pretty much there through the evidence that I'm exposing, but nobody else in the world appears to be exposing it. We've got to ask, why am I the only person in the world that's able to do this, and why am I having these dreams? And it doesn't mean I'm better or more special than anybody else. I suspect from the evidence that I've got, it is looking like I am a direct bloodline through Christ. That's what the evidence is all suggesting. And potentially I'm maybe the last bloodline of Christ, potentially. That's what the information, I'm going to be talking about some of that's a huge thing to say. I understand that, but this is what the evidence is saying. I wouldn't say anything unless I had really significant evidence to suggest this is the case. Hi Gary, your ring could be a W on it. Do you think it is an M, please? Yeah, I think it's an M. I put a post out and somebody said it is a Gothic M. Now I don't know for sure. I haven't actually looked specifically, tried to search which way up it goes. It would make sense that it's an M because of everything I'm telling you and what else I'm going to be talking about tonight as well, and how that ties in with the Knights Templar. But it could be a W, I suppose. I mean, I don't know what a Gothic W, the difference is between a Gothic W and a Gothic M. I don't know. But the engravings on that ring cannot be ignored. It goes straight into Rome. It goes straight into a document that talks about the modernization of the Vatican, which is everything that I'm exposing at the moment, and how there's a conflict between the Vatican being modernized and not. And this was around the year I was born. It was actually before that started, about 1968, and then it came to a peak in 1968. So I was born in 1977, and there was this conflict within the Vatican, and it looks as though they set up this organization in 1970 called the Saint Puy X, and I think that X, this was the Vatican. I suspect that X relates to the bloodline of Christ. There's too many things now around the X, specifically tying into me, and we're going to be talking about some of that as well in a minute. Some things that somebody else has got me actually realizing how important it is. Somebody's put, because it's then our free will if we do nothing about it. Yeah, absolutely. We've been given free will for a reason. Okay, we have a choice in everything. We can, like I said the other night, you have a choice when you get to a point when you can't explain something, and it could be the creator or not. You could convince yourself and just discredit the creator at that point and say it's not the creator. So you're choosing not to believe, if you like. Ultimately, when you get to the end of your life, if you've done that all of your life, when you've had answers in front of you, such as nature, such as, all the amazing things that are happening to me at the moment, if for every one of those I'd have gone, well, that's not the creator, I'm setting myself up to choose eternal, potentially, whatever you want to call it, the opposite of paradise after I die. And I think it is all about a choice, everybody. And I think the evidence is overwhelming. There is a creator right in front of us. When you look at the design through nature, when you look at us, to me, it's just overwhelming. It's just there's just too much evidence in my mind. But anyway, it's a whole nother subject. I'm just going to have a look at some of the more questions. I'm going to come on to this very important evidence. Someone's put, Jesus is the consciousness you possess. Someone's put, can someone block Dan Strobianson, please? Oh, let's have a look. What are they doing wrong? Oh, all of those things they're putting on there. Yeah. I'll block them now. There you go. Gone. Obviously being deliberate. They're obviously trying to fill up the chat with that. Rod Hayes, Sunday breaking news on YouTube may help you with your investigation. They're all involved. Anyone that's not talking about the company's house fraud, you cannot trust them, everybody. Okay, I've tried. I will try. I'll screenshot that. But everyone I'm contacting, Nobody is responding. Okay, they've positioned everybody. This appears to be all centered around me. I was having a conversation with someone last night, and I said, look, with the amount of evidence I've got to consider that everything is because of who I may be. I have to consider that. That's not me saying I'm better than anyone else or anything like that. It's possible that they know who I am, and through all of this, they're trying to get me to do something. It's possible. Right. I'm glad to see you well. Thank you very much, Crikey. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Just tired a little bit. Thank you very much, Dawn. Appreciate your comment. I'm okay. Okay, I'm going to crack on with the evidence. Wow, they had put a lot of messages. Wow. Did he hop the fence, Denise? Oh, sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. It's talking to somebody else there. Okay, I'm going to crack on. I know I haven't gone on to the bottom of all of the questions. Oh, it's Denise. Someone's saying, Denise, go home. What's Denise doing then? Oh, dear. I hope you're all well today. Where is everyone from? I'm in North Central Florida. Great, Crikey, to have you here. Amazing. Amazing to have you from Florida on here. It's really good that we're getting people from all over the world. There's not enough people, unfortunately. They're suppressing my TikTok. It looks as though they've stopped my numbers actually growing. So I've got 5,500 and something, and it's been stuck at that for quite a few days now. So I think they've stopped the numbers going up because they're too worried about the evidence I'm now disclosing. Get back to your boat, somebody has said to Denise. Right, I'm gonna I think I've removed the person you're mentioning now. Denise Robertson. Oh, I don't know if I have actually. I haven't seen any comments yet. You're going to get more people coming on anyway that are part of this. Right, I'm going to carry on because I can't see any other. Right, let's talk about some of the evidence from the last couple of days. Let me just put my phone back. And we're going to be talking about land registry. It's pretty overwhelming what I found on land registry today, which supports them trying to literally take over the world through the land grabbing. But of course, it's all illegal. So they actually don't own anything legally under their own system. This is how inverted the whole thing is, because of the forgery behind it. They don't actually own anything that they're claiming that they're owning. And this is part of the inversion. Right. I remember I was in the police for 18 years, so this is the fact. Okay, so I'm just going to go over a little bit more about my ring. Some of this I mentioned, but I'm going to talk about the QAnon connections through the evidence, and we're going to be talking about QAnon a little bit here, which obviously then links in with Donald Trump. So in a video I was sent about the potential unaliving of the Pope in 1968, Pope John Paul I, there was mention of a papal ring being destroyed. This got me looking into my ring, which I acquired through supposedly my wife's grandfather. I actually suspect that was a lie. I suspect they were all actors around me, which again supports what I'm saying about who I may be. There's some information that suggests he was never her granddad. Anyway, right, let's get it around that way so I can see it. Oh no, there you go. So the ring appears to be an Old English Gothic M, and it has the letters H, G, and S, and something similar to 9C T with an underscore underneath it. This is the ring that I'm wearing now on my right hand. Okay. The T, when I research what the T with an underscore means, it says T with an underscore in the brackets, a maker's mark. This is often a sponsor's mark, indicating the manufacturer, such as T, and they give Trantum as an example, which is a known Queensland Australian company. Okay. And this becomes important because there are connections to my family and Julian Assange, who was part of a doomsday cult from Australia. All three of my families are connected to Julian Assange, and he had properties, or the cult, it was actually his mother's partner was part of that cult, called the Family in Australia. They had properties linked to Kent in Dorset, in England, which is where I was born. It says here, other potential markings. If this is a British or Australian piece, you may find other marks nearby, such as a number for 9 karat gold, which mine has 9C, remember T with an underscore, or a date or a letter. So Company's House shows that Trantum Limited, which is what it came up with from my ring, Trantum Limited, had been incorporated on the 9th of May 2016, which is when the Pizzagate scandal was being exposed, and it dissolved on the 5th of January 2022, which is as I'm starting to ask questions within Exborn Manor where my investigation began. On the incorporation document, you have Nabarro Pool Limited. That's on the incorporation document. Nabarro is a company quickly linked to Donald Trump, Jimmy Savile, and the Royals and the earthquake technology, CERN, and much more, almost all immediately linked from that Nabarro company. Okay. The other pool of this company, because it's Nabarro Pool is the area, as I told you about earlier, right near Exborn Manor in Bournemouth. Nabarro Pool Limited, this company, had been incorporated. This is on the incorporation document, okay, connected directly to my ring. It had been incorporated in March 2002, 6 months after the World Trade Center disaster. The World Trade Center disaster connects to me in so many ways now. It cannot be a coincidence, everybody. All right, there's so many connections. And there's an organization called the Holy Land Foundation, which ties back in with my wife's family from the evidence and into Exborn Manor around the time of the World Trade Center disaster. So this was 6 months after the World Trade Center disaster. And on the first, first cert formations. Oh, my phone's just gone off. First cert formations is on its incorporation document. Now, please go and check this. You know, if you've got a secondary device, just check some of the information as we're talking about this to confirm that everything I'm telling you is true. All right. And then that will get you then to realize that I'm not hoax. I'm not made up. I'm not part of any intelligence deception or anything. I am literally working for the creator, everybody. I'm in a tent. I've lost my entire family almost over this. I've lost my property, some of my property, my motorhome. I think it feels as though I could be killed any day. I have no idea. And I've been doing this since 2022. There's been loads and loads of incidents that has made me feel as though they were going to take my life. You know, I'm not compromised by this, and you can prove it by looking at the evidence that I'm giving you. And this is why I'm producing the document with all of the evidence within it. And I am in the process of trying to put all of this into that document. So let me just get my phone. And you can email me and I will give you the email again. I know some of you still haven't had the document, but hopefully you can appreciate how important it is that I build the evidence to support who I may be in this whilst I still can, because that could be the key. It could be the key to turn this around, because they may be trying to fulfill false prophecies, you see. Right, hold on. I've got it balanced on like a couple of lunchbox things, but is that better? Not really. I'm trying to get sort of more centre to the screen. Right. What I'll do, I'll try and remember to stop in a bit so I can answer some questions. Okay, so it has, as I've said, first cert formations on the incorporation document. You can find that in the filing history of this company, Nabarro Pool Limited. Nabarro is November Alpha Bravo, Alpha Romeo Romeo Oscar. That's Nabarro, Nabarro, followed by Pool, Poole, Limited Ltd. Right, now let me get to I've mentioned that bit underneath it, so I'm just going to go straight to where this now becomes important with the first first cert. From the company, I'll just read this bit actually, first of all. Again, I know I said this the other night, but within Transom Limited, Richard Andrew Bolton connects the company to 13 companies, including R. Bolton, in brackets, Manchester Limited, that have been incorporated in 1989, which is when the World Wide Web was created for CERN, which is very relevant to the Collider side of this. And it dissolved in March 2024 as the exposure continued, as I continued to expose the fraud. Mark William Davis connects this company to East Lancashire Masonic Charity, so linked to the Freemasons. They have been incorporated as East Lancashire Masonic Benevolent Institution, incorporated in brackets, in 1904. Before its name was changed for the only time in 2006, which is the year that I moved from Kent to Dorset, not knowing anyone down there, even though all three of my families ended up being connected. I suspect they are not my family's, some of them at least, which then supports the bloodline connection from elsewhere. Within the article, just whilst we're on that point, within the article linked to the Doomsday Cult, it talks about babies being swapped around, okay, within the hospitals and them swapping babies around. We know that Ancestry.com and other genealogy companies are part of the centralized criminal network. And in fact, Ancestry.com was the CEO was, what's his first name? Mark Thompson, who was the head of the BBC. I believe Mark Thompson is connected to the Thompson family from Glasgow, who was linked into the Italian mafia, which means a link back into the Vatican and to the Collider technology linked to the Vatican. And the Krays were associating with that Thompson family. And in fact, the research I acquired yesterday suggests they used to go to the gangsters within Glasgow if they wanted a hit to be taken out. So if they needed an assassination done, they would swap. So the people in Glasgow would assassinate people in London for the Krays and vice versa, so that it didn't get uncovered so easily. Now all of that information, every death could be a deception. All right, every death in terms of these murders could be a deception, but I would be very naive to think that nobody has been actually unalived due to the amount of money, multi-trillions of pounds of fraud, drugs, sex trafficking, children, etc. So, you know, we've got to assume that these deaths are real. And of course, I've got lots of evidence around the death of Jill Dando now. It's, if she did die, then it will 100% do what I'm talking about. If Princess Diana, if that was not an accident, she did die, then it will definitely be to do with this. Definitely. Michael Jackson, exactly the same. So, where are we? So the year I moved to Dorset, and the East Lancashire Masonic charity I'd already identified is connected almost immediately to Gerald McCann, the father of Madeleine McCann. Now that fits back in then with Exbourne Manor. She went missing on the 3rd of May 2007. That's the same year that it was a staged introduction, all right, before I even knew about the fraud. I didn't even know about the fraud until 2022. Why would they stage me to be linked to all of this unless there was something about me? It just would not make sense. Now, remember, the information suggests that there was a hidden Knights Templar underground group that hid the true bloodline of Christ for many, many centuries. Okay, so I suspect that there's people that were linked to me that were trying to get me to identify potentially who I was, but couldn't say it through the evidence. And just whilst I'm thinking about it, because one example of something that now makes sense. Exbourne Manor, okay, they staged my introduction to that building. Look at the name, Exbourne. If you flip that round, Born X, Born Bloodline, Christ, okay. The other thing now makes sense, this is just blew my mind yesterday, is when I was starting to investigate what was going on, I was a carpenter, okay, with my dad before I was in the police. Again, I don't think that's a coincidence. So I was in, and I actually had created my own carpentry firm that I was doing when I was on a career break from the police. I took a career break in 2014, but I think I was doing the carpentry in like 2017, something like that, before I went back to the police, and they refused to extend it, which again could be deliberate. Anyway, I was doing some of the work around Exbourne Manor, trying to save everyone money. I was doing it for nothing, and doing carpentry, and the X had come off of, okay, the sign that's on the front of the building. Now, I think this was deliberate, or it was divine. The X had come off, and I was the one that ended up fixing that X back up into the Exbourne Manor sign on the building. Now, I only realised that yesterday, how that's now very likely going to be relevant. And remember, the road that the building is in is Christ Church Road. I then moved. Now, this wasn't somebody else's decision. This was me liking Christchurch and wanting to move to Christchurch, okay? So we moved there in 2010, the year before the Christchurch earthquake. Again, I don't think this is going to be a coincidence, everybody. Christchurch is twinned with Christchurch in New Zealand, okay, where the earthquake occurred. Then you've got the church that I was going to with my nan, supposedly my wife's nan and granddad. I suspect they were not. where I acquired this ring from her granddad, and that church was called Christ Church. And I didn't know, but it was connected to Deborah Fleming via the Wessex Partnership, the person who later initiated my removal from Exbourne Manor. The name of the church where the Hampstead Child Abuse Inquiry, which links to people that were positioned next to me when I transferred from Kent, okay, to Dorset. One of my friends was Guy Briscoe. He links immediately via the Company's House records, via a name on an incorporation document, to Ricky Dearman, who is the father in the Hampstead Child Abuse Inquiry. You know, there's too many things. He also links to the Harold Shipman serial killer murderer, who was linked to the NHS. He was a doctor. And he's connected to the Las Vegas shooting via the Company's House research. So, yeah, Exbourne now seems to make sense. The X coming off of that sign, me fixing it. You've also got a company, when you research Gutenberg's, which was the first company to create the Bible, everybody. Okay, Gutenberg's was a German company in 1440, I think, and then they were rapidly printing religious material in the Reformation period. They were the first ones to create the first Bible. And when you research Gutenberg Limited, go and have a little look at it. It goes to a company called DNA equals X. And guess what that connects to? Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, the company where my investigation began. And they changed the name from a company to that name in 2023, which is when I was starting to expose the international government fraud. So someone went into the Company's House records, they changed the name to DNA equals X. And then in 2022, when I'm exposing all of this, starting to find out what's going on, Elon Musk suddenly changes or starts to change Twitter to X. And then he's even called one of his children X now, okay, as I've been exposing all of this. On that same year, the Queen died. I suspect that's not true. And he went to a Halloween party and wore a Baphomet costume. And the Baphomet is a symbol of the Church of Satan. Now, I've now found research connecting into the Church of Satan from Exbourne Manor after they, well, not the Church of Satan, sorry, the Satanic Temple United Kingdom, which appears to make connections to Saturnalia, okay, which links into Rome, okay, and the infiltration of all three Abrahamic faiths. And that was after they rectified the forgery that I'd identified in the main Company's House fraud, main company, Jordan's and Sons Limited. They rectified it, put the new companies back in, okay, changed the dates around after I'd exposed it. That then found me a connection to the Satanic Temple United Kingdom, linking to the Flemings via the research. The Flemings, the ones that initiated my removal. Anyway, well, let me get back to this, because I'm going off track a little bit here. So we have a link to Gerald McCann via this ring. A search of H, G, and S on the ring, followed by the word the Vatican, reveals the following information. Based on the search, it does not appear to be a standard. Okay, this is important. Oh, I haven't put the rest of that. Okay, so I won't carry on with that because I'd already said that. So I'm just going to read the other stuff that I've got now. Okay. Where are we? Bear with me. What page is that? 1444. What page is that one? 1445. Okay. Hopefully I've got these in the right order. I just got these earlier. So I'm just going to cut into a bit of the evidence here, because what I'm going to try and show you is the connection. Remember, you got first cert that we found from my ring. I'm going to show you the link to QAnon, but I want to build up to how I got to QAnon first of all. Referring back to a name of Orcott in some of the research, he also connects to Bank of Beirut, UK Limited, that was incorporated at a key time in March 2002, not long after the World Trade Center disaster. Its name was last changed within 4 months, and again within 3 months. This is the year when the World Wide Web was created. When the World Wide Trade Center disaster. This is the year after the World Trade Center disaster, and becomes relevant to the research of the Iraq war leading into the plan of the disaster. Ocourt, this person also connects to Walker's Books Limited, And you'll get to where understand where I'm saying this in a minute. I'm just building up to how I got to this link to QAnon. Walker's Books Limited, that features in the research of the Maxwells and worldwide control of education and information before World War One, and to David Beckham, Limited, which features in the research from MK Limited, linking to my former school, to Waterman offshore companies and a Knights Templar location. Orca also connects to QAnon Capital Limited. Okay, so we now have a connection very quickly to my school, to QAnon. All right, and then we're going to QAnon Capital Limited. Okay, that have been incorporated as Bet Hill Limited in 2003 before its name was changed again that year to QAnon Limited. So this is before I knew about the fraud, everybody. All right, so people that are thinking, well, Gary, they're only trying to make you believe this now because you're uncovering the fraud. It's well before, okay? Its name was last changed on the 15th of May 2007, 12 days before Madeleine McCann went missing, and 6 days after the relative Harry shoes was incorporated that links to the evidence of Prince Harry wearing Madeleine McCann's shoes, Madeleine McCann's skin at the time of Jeffrey Epstein's arrest, or around that time. The company dissolved in 2016 after the Pizzagate scandal started to be exposed, and 4 months after an apparent ritual at CERN. And then there was an article after that ritual at CERN where people were claiming that CERN was actually causing earthquakes. People that were living around CERN were saying, according to the article, that CERN was actually causing earthquakes. It connects to major areas of the fraud and quickly to Freemasons and Exborn Manor by Waterlow's on its incorporation documents. So this is the QAnon Capital Company. Now Waterlow's, sugar, my back's hurting a bit. Waterlow's then connects to Portals, a company called Portals Limited, because Portals was an organization that was originally founded in 1711, I think it was, in Hampshire, in Dorset. This is why I believe Hampshire is so very important. And Portals created the paper that was then used in the currency for the Bank of England from 1724. All right, and then it was taken over by De La Rue. Okay, now it's very important, the name Portals, because a lot of people have been trying to get me to believe that there's portals in relation to CERN. I believe that's a deception. I believe some of them may have been trying to get me to identify the importance of portals in Hampshire and where that was going to then lead from the evidence. So Portals started creating, as I've said, the money for the Bank of England in 1724. It was then acquired by De La Rue in 1995. Well, that is the year that the Hackler International Advisory Board, linking to the Russian government, linking to the royals, on page 40 of the incorporation document for the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales, which links directly into my upbringing, everybody, okay? It was acquired by De La Rue, 1995. It links to the Russian government, I've said the royal family, and it links into the Flemings and major areas of the fraud from that, to prove that there is an international collaboration in relation to everything, whereas they have been trying to deceive all of you to think that Russia and America are at risk of conflict. No, they're all working together collaboratively, and Ukraine and Iran, all of them are working together on this. I promise you 100% they are lying to you about this. It goes right back to the Reformation. They've positioned everybody linking in with the Vatican as part of everything that I'm telling you. It's a fact, everybody. And remember, Gutenberg started producing the paperwork, rapidly printing for the religious materials for the document as the Reformation was taking place. And the Reformation began in Scotland. And the Reformation was the formation of the governments, starting to form the governments, which means mind control. So QAnon, so we're going to get to the connection in a minute I was telling you about earlier. So what is QAnon? Research shows that QAnon is a far-right American political conspiracy theory and political movement that originated in 2017, everybody. All right, look at this. The year after the Pizzagate scandal was being exposed, when Donald Trump was positioned in 2017, the same year that my wife's granddad did a video talking about his life, gave information confirming that he wasn't my wife's granddad, it looks like. And then I acquired this ring after that. Now, 2017, what was I doing personally? That was the year when I was told I could not have any longer on a career break, which I now think is deliberate and staged, which meant we were having to head back to England. And I went back to the police for around 6 months at that point. Okay, we ended up living with my nan and with her nan and granddad, supposedly, for a few months as they became ill. And I was thinking, well, wow, this is incredibly divine. You know, the fact that we can be there looking after them, you know, and that was because of a fire happened in the, now, you know, I've got to consider with all of this, that it's all divine. I mean, it's unbelievable, because otherwise I've got to be saying they've set the fire in the motorhome to force us to come back when we did at that point, and I don't think that would have happened. The fact that I phoned the day that we were going to leave in a hire car, because we had to leave the motorhome in Austria, the day we were going to leave, my tenant at the Exbourne Manor said they were having to leave, which meant we had somewhere to live when we went back if we needed to, but we went and stayed with the nan and granddad for a while. They became ill. We were going to church with them, to this church in Westbourne, as I've said, linked to the Flemings. I didn't know that at that point. And of course, when Barry died, Barry Windsor died, that's when I acquired this ring. And that was given to me by my wife and my wife's grandmother. I don't think, you know, it's just all such, it's just incredible, everything that's going on with all of this. It's just, I've got to consider that a lot of it's staged, but none of it may have been staged. I may literally, you know, the evidence is really, if I was gonna make a snapshot decision now, I'd say, look, it looks as though I am the last bloodline of Christ. That's what all of the evidence is suggesting, based on all of it. Because you've got to factor in my dreams, you've got to factor in how that led to things. And, you know, I struggle to believe they've been able to do that. And then you're talking about, you know, the manipulation of space, matter and time through that process. Well, you're talking about the creator. Anyway, QAnon, 2017 it originated. QAnon centers on fabricated claims made by an anonymous individual or individuals known as Q. Those claims have been relayed and developed by online communities and influencers. Their core belief is that a cabal of satanic, cannibalistic child molesters in league with deep state is operating global child sex trafficking ring, and that Donald Trump is secretly leading the fight against them. Do I honestly believe that humanity, well, it's possible that, you know, there is this, because you've got the link into the vampirism element of all of this. I can't ignore that. But do I believe my 3 families are involved in the blood of the children? I lived with these people all of my life. I didn't see anything that would suggest they were involved in crimes against children. Nothing. You know, they didn't try to even involve me in the fraud that they're so obviously connected to, and the deception. They didn't. I was never asked to be a Freemason. I was never told about any money laundering or involved in any money laundering. They have separated me from what they were all part of. Now, I can't believe, with all of the, you know, bearing in mind all 3 of my families have connections to this, right into the thick of it, into the blood of the children, into everything. Do I believe they were involved in the blood of the children? I struggle to believe that. And then you come back to, was that all, and is all of this a deception to actually awaken the consciousness of those that are key in all of this, that are destined to create a new earth of transparency and salvation and integrity and equality and fairness, and safeguard children and humanity forever? You know, it's just mind-blowing, everybody. Right, so anyway, let me carry on. I keep deviating away from what I'm reading, sorry. Right. Where are we? Their core belief is that there is a cabal of all of these, you know, this sinister activity going on. QAnon has direct roots in Pizzagate, which I can't ignore that that's connected. That links almost immediately to my wife's employer. It does. It links immediately because you've got the Virgin organization making the connection straight away from Hillary Clinton straight to my wife's employer. Another conspiracy theory that appeared on the internet 1 year earlier, but also incorporates elements of many different conspiracy theories and unifies them into a larger interconnected theory. QAnon has been described as a cult. Overwhelming evidence shows the Flemings as being hugely involved in the worldwide criminal network, and it knowingly facilitates crimes against humanity. Well, this is a fact. This is a fact that the system they've got in place, even if that isn't happening with the children, which, you know, there's evidence saying it is, it's a fact that the system facilitates that to happen against the children. Fake details allowed to be used, fraud through the money laundering criminal system linked into tax and everything else. So it deliberately allows those crimes to take place against the children. Facilitates those crimes against humanity, and particularly against the children. The Flemings are linked to James Bond via Ian Fleming, and one of its main characters is Q. Bilal Zine connects QAnon Capital, the company we were talking about earlier, to Park Close companies, including Park Close Block 1. Now, this, I believe, is a reference to me, because Park Close is a property that I own, is in Park Close, okay, that I jointly own with my wife, okay. Block 1, you've got the block of flats, okay, is Exbourne Manor, and the 1 is relative to the flat that I own in that building, okay, but it gets more interesting. This company was incorporated in 2011, where this is talking about the, this is talking about Park Close, this is talking about Park Close Block 1 Limited, okay. It was incorporated in 2011, everybody. We had just moved to the property in 2010, okay. So they've created this the year after we moved to the property. Now, remember, I didn't know about the fraud at this point. Didn't know about the fraud until 2022. 2011 is the Christchurch earthquake, okay. We ended up going to Christchurch. This was my idea to go to Christchurch, okay. They didn't. Well, they may have planted it. However, I always wanted to go to Christchurch, so we went to New Zealand, and we went to Christchurch in New Zealand. So we bought the property, 2010, in Park Close, okay. Remember, you got this Block 1 in the same name, and then they created this company the year after we bought it. It connects immediately to the fraud by A1 Company Services Limited, Winnington House, 2 Woodbury Grove, North Finchley on its incorporation document. Now, that makes direct connections to the accountant at Exbourne Manor, okay, via those details, all right, where I had been living, and which the accountant links to Disneyland via the research and loads of other key areas via the accountant, which was called Carter and Coley. So this company has these addresses on it. The company appears to be personally relevant to me, potentially in both timing and the address makes a direct connection, everybody, to a company called Lisa M Ventures. So this exact address, okay, of Winnington House, 2 Woodbury Grove, North Finchley, on its incorporation document, makes a direct connection to Lisa M Ventures Limited. My wife's name was Lisa Morton. Okay, so you've now got connections to the property we bought. It looks like references to the connection we bought together, Exbourne Manor, property we bought together, Exbourne Manor, Lisa Ventures, Lisa M Ventures, okay? And the address makes a direct connection to P. Diddy, the child trafficking investigation involving P. Diddy, an immediate connection into I think it's Puff Daddy, it's called the company. I begin to believe that my wife's name is Lisa Morton, as I said. Philip John Gamble connects Park Close Block 1 Limited to Branksome Towers Flat Owners, okay, Association, with, in its brackets, Block D. Now, I'm going to say the name. The flat that I own at Exbourne Manor is flat D1, okay? So you've now got the 1, Block 1, then in this other company connected to it, Block D, D1, everybody. There's too much of a coincidence linked to QAnon. okay, Limited, that was incorporated in 1985, and it has a registered address of Paul Hill, Bournemouth, where I was the local beat bobby for the area, and the office that I was working from connects directly to the Iona end of the world prophecy via Valentine Fleming, via the other research coming in. It also connects to the NASA recent exploration via a name of David Thompson coming in, and other links. No, that connects to Beals, which is in the town centre of Bournemouth, where the security were going. The other connection to that office where I was working, you've got it from Valentine Fleming to the Iona prophecy, and directly into that office via the company's house records. Even though there's over 5 million registered companies, you're talking immediate connections, everybody. This can't be a coincidence, all right? There's too much. When you research the World Trade Center, there's a World Trade Center company. It connects to that exact office that I was working from as well. And I was the only police officer had that patch in this time. And that was in 2008, I think it was. I started there. 2008, maybe 2007. And I'd done my sergeant's exams, and I wanted to do a local beat bobby work, because I loved the sort of interacting with everybody and dealing with the problem area, and really getting, your teeth into resolving the problems for the victims. And I was the only beat bobby for that area where that office was. This was in Bournemouth town centre, Paul Hill area. If you know Bournemouth, you've got Commercial Road, which is a hill going up from the main square. The office was in the security centre on the right there, that we used to go in for tea and coffee every now and then. And it went straight to that office on the company's house records. Michael Frederick Rolfe connects Branksome Towers Flat Owners Association, Block D Limited, to Gulf Innovations UK Limited. It was incorporated in 2003 and dissolved in March 2011, less than a month after the Christchurch earthquake. First Formations Limited is in the People record and connects to 769 companies, including Wessex Health Limited. It was incorporated in 2003, has a registered address in Christchurch, Dorset, the town where my wife and I had lived, and where I'd worked in the police after Bournemouth. Wessex companies are shown throughout the research of the fraud and linked to Deborah Fleming, the former NHS Chief Executive Officer within Hampshire, Isle of Wight and Dorset. I refused to file and she was the one that initiated my removal after I refused to file the forged bank documents. First Cert, here we are. Remember, from my ring, First Cert, here it is. First Cert also connects, I can't read that. First Cert is in the People record and connects to a football company, Something Town Football Club Limited, incorporated, and connects to the football industry. Referring back to Brian Bilal Zain, that name that I told you at the beginning again about, they also connect to QAnon Capital Limited, to various food-related companies, leading to burger and pizza companies linked to the fraud. Burger companies had also been linked to David Beckham Limited via company David Beckham Limited, which then links to my family and to my school. To Waterman offshore companies with links to the Knights Templar location and then to my school. Zane also links to Wimbledon Village Limited. Now, my father had contracts. He was a carpenter. I worked with him before I joined the police for quite a while, and he had a contract at Wimbledon Tennis Club, okay, which is the All England Lawn and Tennis Club in Wimbledon. Now we have Wimbledon Village Limited that was incorporated as Jamie's London Limited on the 17th of November 2011. Less than 3 weeks after Jimmy Savile's death, before its name was changed on the 12th of April 2012, a week before the apparent meeting with Jeffrey Epstein and Stephen Hawkins and CERN scientists. So it changed to Wimbledon Village. Okay, remember, this is linked to QAnon Limited via this name. We've just gone right back. We've just looked at the name that's connected to QAnon Limited. Now we have a link to my father's area where he was working, and it changed the name to it literally a week before the apparent meeting with Jeffrey Epstein, CERN scientists, and Stephen Hawkins. David Beckham did adverts for Burger King in that same month, in April 2012. Its name was changed for the final time in September 2016, after the Pizzagate scandal has been exposed and a month after the apparent ritual took place at CERN. I suspect the first name in this relates to Chef Jamie Oliver, who I've connected elsewhere in the document. It dissolved in May 2019, the company, between the arrests of Julian Assange and Jeffrey Epstein. Remember, Julian Assange and Jeffrey Epstein now connect to me in multiple ways, and to CERN and to my families almost immediately in the research. It has Conicus Group Limited and Sevenside on its incorporation document, linking immediately to the fraud. Wimbledon is where as I said, my father had a contract. He also worked for the BBC studios. A separate search for Comicus Group reveals that We Are Bar Group Limited, that has been incorporated as Main Paint Limited in 2008 before its name was changed to Comicus, okay, the same name that we've just been talking about at the time that it had that name linking with Wimbledon, okay. We Are Bar. The bar is the Temple Bar, where the legal system is centralised. The solicitors are centralised to the Temple Bar, which links to the Sweeney Todd Group and connects to the paedophile information exchange via the research. So this company had that name. It is shown as being in administration at the time I did the research. It connects immediately to the main company in the fraud and Exborn Manor, where my investigation began, by Jordan's Limited on its incorporation document. Simon Jeffrey Vardigans connects We Are Bar Group Limited to 62 companies, including the Groucho Club Limited, a private members club that links immediately to the Goldsmiths, politicians, actors, and deceased Caroline Flack. If you're aware, in 2024, she supposedly committed suicide in 2024. She was a member at this Groucho Club. Since I've exposed the fraud, the Groucho Club has now closed. Okay, the what's her name, Suella Braverman, who was on and off the Home Secretary, connects to the Groucho Club as well, and she was on and off being the Home Secretary, which oversees all of the police constabularies, in 2022, around the time of the Queen's death. As I was exposing all of this, she was on off being the Home Secretary, probably where she was saying, look, I don't want to be part of this anymore, it's all getting exposed, and that she was being compelled to come back in that position for a very short period of time, and then left again, then came back again as the Home Secretary, because they knew I was starting to expose the link to the Doomsday Cult and the Association of Chief Police Officers of the United Kingdom, which means the Home Office of the government. Stephen Fry was also a member of the Groucho Club. Stephen Fry links to the evidence of the Feversham Historical Child Abuse Inquiry, linking with the Mind Group. And we actually come to a Mind company in a minute in the research. And Mind was set up in 1946. There are connections from the directors of We Are Bar Group Limited to some major companies, including Costa Coffee, including Marks and Spencers, including Krispy Kreme, including Baird companies, which I think relates to television. The Baird name is very significant to the creation of the television. It's very blurred. I can't see that very well. It's gone blurred at the bottom there. Tricar, no, can't read that. Nova Bars, Barracuda, Sporter Companies, Halfords, we all know Halfords, many more that are connected. So I can't read that very well, that bit. Referring back to Wimbledon Village Limited, Hanas Bassam Nakach, probably a completely made up name, connects the company to 12 companies, including 3 Clifton Gardens Limited, which has an address of 91 Randolph Avenue, London, featured in the research of the television via post office scandal judge Peter Ronald Fraser. And I've got evidence now that is pretty much confirming that they're using judges that are using different names and even same pictures for a different judge's name. Okay, we're talking for high profile cases within the legal system. Philip Mary Harrison connects 3 Clifton Gardens Limited to various apparent publicising companies and to the British Museum Company Limited. It was incorporated as British Museum Publications Limited in 1972, the year after the World Economic Forum began and the year before the World Trade Center disaster was completed. 1972 is the year that Jimmy Savile bought the property linked to Exborn Manor in Bournemouth as well, everybody. All right, that's very relevant. So this company, the British Museum, okay, becomes relevant because of the Albert Pike letter, okay, the 3 World War deception letter and document that appears to have been kept in the British Museum and was removed from public view on the year that I was born, everybody. Okay, so we now have that link from QAnon to that Albert Pike letter, that Albert Pike document. Lady Helen Wolfson is shown in the people record of this Clifton Gardens, and it's as is Urang Property Management Limited, that is featured in the research of the Dunblane massacre, linked to the Andrew Murray's family, because obviously Andrew Murray links in with Wimbledon, okay, with tennis and major areas of the criminal network, and in the research of the president of the European Commissioner. The President of the European Commission, Ursula Gertrude von der Leyen, as shown elsewhere. Referring back to QAnon Capital Limited, Bassam Moon, they're making these names up, connects to 7 companies, including QAnon Development, that was incorporated in 2004, and it dissolved in 2012, and links immediately to the fraud by SDG companies on its people record, which is Stanley Davis Group. That name, surname is Moomnu, made up, I suspect. Also connects to Lyle Muse West Management Company Limited, that was incorporated in. I'm going to get onto another subject in a minute, okay, which is going to be really interesting for you. But I'll just finish this up. This company was incorporated in 1989, the same year as the World Wide Web was created for CERN, and was a criminal company, having been incorporated with the same companies as Exporn Manor Freehold Limited, when my investigation began. David Alexander Orr connects Lyle Muse West Management Company to Shakespeare's Trust, that's featured in the research of the Daniel Morgan murder of 1987, making major connections to the international criminal network, to the Russian government, to the leader of North Korea, back into the United Nations, into United Nations companies that were incorporated with the same companies as Exporn Manor, so they were a criminal company, as well as to my father's former accountant, which now makes connections really quickly through this, my father's former accountant, and the evidence of the possible hunting of children on estates stemming from the research of the IRA and the the Birmingham Six, a Shakespeare Globe company. Also features quickly to the Royals, from the research of Jimmy Savile's previous property in Bournemouth, linked directly to Exporn Manor and to the family of John F. Kennedy. QAnon Limited had been incorporated. So we're talking about a different company now. QAnon Limited had been incorporated on the 12th of March 2012, just over a month before the apparent meeting with Jeffrey Epstein, Stephen Hawking, and CERN scientists, and it dissolved in 2013 after CERN claims to have discovered the God particle. It has AML Registrars Limited on its incorporation document. John Mullin connects QAnon Limited to 145 companies, including Gay Potato Properties. I just thought I'd put that because it was quite unusual. Gay Potato Properties Limited and Die Today Limited. Also a company of AML Registrars Limited that was on the incorporation document of the previous company that we've just been talking about, QAnon Limited. AML Registrars Limited had been incorporated in 2000 and connects to the fraud via Brighton and Brighton Director and Brighton Secretary on its incorporation document. Brighton Formations Limited, right, I'm not going to go too much into that because I want to get to some of the more interesting stuff for you. Oh, actually, this is relevant. Martin William Machen connects Brighton Formations to 254 companies, which includes Redheads UK Limited. Redhead companies have already been made important connections to the apparent skinning of children alive via a Skinner's company. Okay, Matcham also connects to various target companies, and Target World Business have made important connections in the research of the World Trade Center disaster. Matcham also connects to music companies and Faber Investments Limited that was incorporated within days of CERN Limited and dissolved in 2023 as the exposure escalated. It has a registered address of 30 Finsbury Square used throughout the fraud. Faber Music, so this is Faber Music this is Faber Investments Limited. Well, Faber Music Limited makes important immediate connections in to Prince Harry, making the link to Jeffrey Epstein and Harvey Weinstein, who we are being told are involved in the crimes against children. And that then links to the evidence of Prince Harry wearing the skin of Madeleine McCann at the time of Jeffrey Epstein's arrest. Matcham, this same director, also connects to Morgan and Forbes Limited, that was incorporated as Bloodstone. Incorporated as Blood. Oh, I've done that bit. I'm going to come back in a bit, guys. I'm going to come back. Sorry about that. I'm going to speak a little bit more, a bit quieter. Right. So another area of, just before we move on to the other subject, in relation to the collider technology, I've been preparing a video to publicise the connection to this on the 14th of April 2025. And on the research, I'm researching the Future Circular Collider program, where it suggests they were trying to build a collider 3 times bigger. This ties into everything what I'm going to be talking about in a minute, actually. Collider Limited, as I was researching it, appeared in my results. Collider Limited. Collider Limited was incorporated in 2004, and it dissolved on the 13th of April 2025, as I was preparing a video with the evidence, and after I'd been speaking more openly regarding my concerns of the collider technology. This suggests they were watching what I was researching before I'd even publicised it, and they dissolved that company, potentially deliberately, so that I would identify that it had dissolved to make that connection because of who I am. Collider Limited has apparent references to Jeffrey Epstein of the Liquid and Edge on its previous names, shown on its overview, with the research suggesting Jeffrey Epstein had been involved in Liquid funding and the Edge Foundation that connects immediately to the main criminal Siemens company, which was linked to the Nazi regime and to CERN. and liquid funding is shown as shown elsewhere in the document. I'd been preparing a video to publicize the connections. No, I've said that. Collider Limited, yeah, I've done that bit. On the next page, where are we? And then we're going to get to some really important new stuff soon. Begbie's trainer is shown on the registered address for Collider Limited. Go and look at it. You'll see that on the registered address, it has Begbie's trainer, or Begbie's Trainer Group PLC, was incorporated in 2004 and connects immediately to the fraud by Stephen Blackmore and of 16 Churchill Way, Cardiff, on its incorporation document. Mandy Donald connects Begbie's Trainer Group PLC to Institute of Cancer Research, Royal Cancer Hospital that was incorporated in 1954, the same year as CERN was originally founded, and its register has been forged. Mandy Donald also connects to Begbie's Trainer Group PLC to JP Morgan US smaller companies. So what this now tells us is we have an immediate connection back to the Flemings via JP Morgan from the Collider company. Okay, so that now ties the Collider to me via them removing me from the company. You see, so it's all coming back to me, everybody, all of this. So JP Morgan US smaller companies investment trust PLC that features in the research of the post office scandal as shown elsewhere in the document. Now, the post office scandal would have given them the ability to take millions from that crime, blame it on a load of postmasters. Some of them killed themselves, according to the research, if it's real. Some of them died whilst they were still wrongly convicted. That will not be an IT issue. That is a lie. They have, if it's true, if it really happened, because we have to consider it didn't, but if it did really happen, then it is because of this fraud, 100%. Jeffrey Domain Hill connects Begbie's Trainer Group PLC to Baker Tilly companies and Invicta Film Partners number 14, which makes important connections to the Goldsmiths is their previous name, the intelligence agencies, the Satanic Temple United Kingdom, and much more as shown elsewhere. Referring back to Collider Limited, Anthony Farrah Jurges connects to We Are Q Limited. Okay, remember we had QAnon, now we've got We Are Q. All right, now this links to me again. You're going to see how this links to me. So this is We Are Q Limited, that was incorporated in December 2023 as I escalated the exposure of the fraud, and has the We Are Group Limited on its incorporation document. The company name, I now suspect, relates to the Q movement, as we mentioned earlier. Robin Lee Dennington connects We Are Q Limited to Fowell Residence Management Company Limited, that had been incorporated in 1984, and Peter Clifford Gibbons Allsop connects this company to T.G. Baines, that connects immediately to my family, as mentioned elsewhere, and I'll just explain why that's relevant. So T.G. Baines is a solicitor's firm in Bexley Heath area of Kent, near to London. And when my mother and my father split up, my father got in a relationship with somebody who had been married in a marriage to a Freemason. Their daughter worked at that solicitor's, T.G. Baines. So we now have this connection to that solicitor's firm. Okay, and that solicitor's firm was also affiliated to my best friend's wife, Emma Lee is the former name, first name, married name, Emma Ailing, and Emma Ailing connects to Ingenious Film Partners 2 literally immediately via one company. Ingenious Film Partners 2 is on the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales. So what this does now is it ties Collider to the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales, to me, to Exbourne Manor, and to all of my families are all connected to this Collider technology, and to Julian Assange, Doomsday Cult, and all of these other individuals that we're talking about. But let's get on to some more evidence from the last couple of days, which is very, very relevant. And again, thank you so much to those that have been sending me information in, because it's proving incredibly important. I'm just going to find the right part on it. I'll just quickly, whilst we're talking about the Collider technology, I believe this was deliberately set up for me. It says on the 18th of December 2025, articles emerged that private donors had pledged 800 million euros to the Future Circular Collider program, which shows their apparent unwavering commitment to what appears to be a very sinister agenda against creation. Now that you can go and look at it, go and search it. It's there. I've checked it, providing it's not all just been me that can see it, but that was sent to me by somebody, and I think that was deliberate for me to see it, to believe that there is an end of creation event if something doesn't happen in all of this. Okay. So this was just today I found this out, thanks to somebody else. So on the 19th of April, someone suggested I research the Strong's concordance number for the number 13, which is in relation to an M. Okay, M, remember on my ring, is the 13th letter of the alphabet. The M and the 13 becomes relevant to the Knights Templar and the hidden bloodline, okay, of Christ, because the evidence suggests that the Grand Master of the Knights Templar was arrested on a Friday the 13th in 1307, and he was tortured for 7 days for not disclosing evidence in relation to the bloodline of Christ before they roasted him alive, apparently, and killed him. That was on Friday the 13th. This apparently led to the British flag, the American flag, sorry, having 13 stars on the back of the $1 note, having loads of 13s of everything on there. I've seen a video showing this. Now, I haven't checked it myself against a dollar note, but now on the dollar note, it also has the pyramid. What does the pyramid relate? It relates to the scene within the Da Vinci Code movie, okay, where you had the inverted pyramid within the Louvre Museum. And that movie came out, remember, the same year that I transferred from Kent to Dorset, not knowing anyone at all, even though all three of my families were connected to a doomsday cult and everything that I'm telling you about here. Okay, before I even knew a thing about the fraud. Okay, 2006 that was. My father then bought me a trip, and my wife, later wife, in 2008, and we went to the Louvre Museum, where it had the pyramid coming down from the ceiling. Well, the pyramid is on the $1 bill as well, and that links to the bloodline of Christ. There's way too much evidence now in all of this, guys. You've also got the link where the original came from a book. Okay, the book was written in 2003, the Da Vinci Code. That stemmed from information of a church within France, where the parchments found in the vault that pertained to the hidden bloodline of Christ within the Knights Templar, which all ties into this. They then tried undermining that evidence through various television programs. Everyone involved that I've looked at that tried to undermine that evidence goes straight into everything that I'm telling you about the criminal network, crimes against humanity, and apparent crimes against children. Which now says, well, by doing that, we can flip that round. Why would you undermine it? And you're part of a system that's trying to hide the truth. Well, that's because it was the truth. All right, that's what the evidence is all suggesting in this. Oh, I'm just going to come back in a minute. Sorry about that. Okay. Oh my goodness, this really isn't a good setup. My head's right on the top of the tent. Okay. So someone suggested I should research the concordance number 13 in relation to what it means in relation to Hebrew and Greek. Now, I'd heard of concordance before, but I didn't really know what it is. But it's basically where there's strong concordance numbers, where there's like a coded system of where there's repeats throughout the scripture, okay, which then generates a reference of a strong number and what that number means based on the verses within the scripture. So what does 13 mean? Bearing in mind, 13 is M. M is on the ring. 13 relates to the Knights Templar, and the 13, you have the 13 bloodline families. The research from that 13 bloodline family tying in with the Illuminati says that there was somehow the bloodline was linked to Jesus, but also the blood of Lucifer. Now remember, the Albert Pike letter says that they want to bring about the light of Lucifer through the Albert Pike letter. Well, what if I have the ability to, through this evidence and through, it can't just be me, everybody. At the moment it's looking like me trying to do everything and I can't do it myself, I don't think. That I have the ability to determine the outcome of this, or at least give humanity the chance through the evidence to determine the outcome of this. But look at what all of this means. I mean, this was pretty significant, I think. And again, thank you so much to the person that suggested this. This wasn't me that found this. So it means in Hebrew, destruction. Destruction in the Hebrew mindset speaks of utter ruin, the kind of loss from which recovery is humanly impossible. The root idea is not momentary damage, but complete annihilation. Lives, property, heritage wiped away. Because Scripture views human life as a stewardship under God, the thought of such irreversible loss carries moral weight. Destruction is never merely a tragic accident, but a violation of the created order that calls for divine response. Context in the book of Esther, what it means, or Esther. It says the single occurrence appears on Esther's lips as she pleads with King Ahasuerus and says, "How could I bear to see the disaster that would befall my people? How could I bear to see the destruction of my kindred?" In the storyline, Haman's irrevocable decree has placed every Jew in the empire under sentence of death. Esther uses the reference to name the horrifying end that awaits if the edict stands. The word crystallizes the stakes of her intercession. Either God overturns the decree or covenant people, or covenant people face total eradication. In the theological dimensions, the number 13 means covenant faithfulness. To speak of Israel's destruction is to question whether God's promises can fail, in Genesis 12:2 and Jeremiah 31-35. Esther's prayerful appeal therefore becomes an appeal to God's steadfast love underlying those promises. Human agency within providence. Although the narrative never overtly mentions the name of God, Esther's courage and Mordecai's counsel are instruments through which divine providence thwarts destruction. This has become very relevant. This is what I'm talking about earlier. It looks as though this is providing the evidence to change the outcome of what they were planning. Okay, now when we look at the collider technology and all of the evidence that suggests they were going to try and end creation to falsify the prophecies, this is exactly what this is now talking about through the number 13. But this is saying that it has the ability not my evidence, not saying the evidence, but it's saying, let me read that to you again. Human agency with providence, it says, that's the title. Although the narrative never overtly mentions the name of God, Esther's courage and Mordecai's counsel are instruments through which divine providence thwarts destruction. Divine providence highlights what would happen if God's hidden hand did not move. It also says judgment versus mercy. In other texts, the idea of destruction can represent righteous judgment upon sin. However, in Esther, the threatened destruction is unjust. Remember what I've been saying. How can you destroy everything when most people have been deceived by a system that removes moral conscience and removes the creator through that removal of the moral conscience? And therefore, it would not be fair, in my mind, to create pain, suffering, and destruction upon those that have been deceived through a system implemented by a small number of others. Destruction is unjust, reminding readers that the God who judges also protects the innocent and reverses unrighteous decrees. Okay, see this? This is so important. Another heading here, intercessory concern and ministry implications. Esther's question, how could I bear, models the Christ-like heart that feels another's peril as its own. The church is called to carry out such burdens, in brackets Galatians 6:2, standing in the gap for peoples threatened by spiritual or physical ruin. Her example encourages vigilant awareness of looming decrees that endanger life and faith, bold access to authority in prayer and advocacy, willingness to risk comfort, position, and even life for those on the brink of destruction. It's exactly what I've been saying, isn't it, everybody? Stop worrying about yourself, worry about the children, be willing to put yourself on the line to stop this. Stop fearing going into solicitors. This is exactly what I'm talking about, everybody. It's giving you the ability to change the outcome in all of this. I don't think I can do it alone. At the moment, it looks as though I'm doing it all alone, everybody. We need those of you that are innocent, or even those of you that are partly compromised by this, to really step out of that comfort zone and that fear you have and start changing this before it's too late. This is exactly what this ring is now telling us through this research. It's all pointing towards a choice that you all have to now make on whether you're going to do the right thing and stand in your moral conscience, or sit around and wait for somebody else that's never going to come to actually resolve this, and it end up leading to the end of all of destruction. Everything's at stake, everybody, according to this research. It talks about, so I'll just read that again. The willingness to risk comfort, position, and even life for those on the brink of destruction. Look at us. They're telling us about the children suffering. They're telling us about that on the news, on the mainstream news. Nobody's doing anything. You have the evidence, you have the power, you have the creator on your side. You need to now act. It needs to be the priority. It talks ethic and eschatological echoes. Across scripture, the ultimate alternative to destruction is salvation in the day of the Lord. Esther's deliverance foreshadows the final rescue when God's enemies are overthrown and every decree of death is overturned. The word thus becomes a marker of the cosmic conflict between death and life. In Christological perspective, it says Jesus Christ confronts humanity's deepest eternal separation from God and overcomes it at the cross. The cross, could the whole crucifix have been about the real bloodline of Christ? The cross. We're talking about the X potentially here again. We've got the X within the... Oh, I'm going to have to come back in a minute. Sorry about that. Right. Hopefully I've got my mic on yet. So where were we? Christological perspective. Jesus Christ confronts humanity's deepest eternal separation from God and overcomes it at the cross. He identifies with Esther's question on a grand scale. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. By taking destruction upon himself, he secures an irreversible salvation. Practical application for the church today is a heading here. Keep watch against cultural edicts. This is all information just coming from that research. Devalue life or suppress gospel witness. Respond with truth and sacrificial love. Engage governmental and social structures as Esther did. Believing God can, now I don't agree with the word of God personally, the actual name God, but we'll say it because it's on here. Can reverse policies that lead to destruction. Anchor hope. Let's listen to that one again. Engage governmental and social structures as Esther did. Believing God can reverse policies that lead to destruction. Anchor hope not in human maneuvering, but in the covenant keeping God who turns threatened ruin into rejoicing. So yeah, I felt that was quite interesting. Right, I'm going to get into some other information about land registry, because this now leads to some really important stuff. So we're going to let me just come to the questions. See if you've got any comments. Sorry, I haven't been looking at them much. Gary, what can people do to help you? Start making citizens arrests of the solicitors. That is what you need to do. You need to be starting to make citizens arrests. You need to be arranging meetings if necessary, getting me that I'm saying the same things over and over here. Police reports, and then send the police reports to me that you're submitting. Emails to politicians, and then sending me a copy or copying me in on it. Knocking on doors, arranging coffee mornings, looking at the evidence, convincing people of the truth so that they can all unite over this. This is obviously what needs to unite the world. If you don't unite the world over this and do something about it, it's possible there's not going to be a future for everybody. Possible. I don't know how I can do this all myself, everybody. So they've taken everything from him. It's wrong. No, I haven't lost everything yet. I'm okay. A lot of it is designed probably as a test for me as well. If I am who it looks like I am, they probably need some sort of confirmation of that as well. So the fact that I'm, refusing any money offers or whatever, and I'm willing to keep going even though I think my life's going to be taken every day, these are probably things that are securing the potential belief of who I may be in all of this to do the right thing. So don't feel sorry for me at all. Please don't feel sorry for me. I'm absolutely fine. You need to really be concerned and be praying for those that are involved in this, okay, that they come forward in the truth, repentance, and the commitment to change. It's great people praying for me and being worried about me, and I really do appreciate it. But I'm fine, honestly. I know whatever's going to happen to me, I know I'm going to be fine. So, you need to focus on your futures and your families and the children that are suffering, and really focus on that and do something about it. Just have a quick look. Yeah, they took that's been one of the hardest things for me, is my dog. They took my dog, and I'm never going to see her again. She's probably not alive. They might have even killed her, I don't know. I haven't seen my dog Rosie since the 1st of September last year now. I mean, that to me just shows how evil they are, really. I mean, who does that? Now, they're claiming that it was my wife that took it because it had a microchip and it was still in both of our names. But there was no, I've not been sent a video. I've requested to see that she's still alive, have a video. I've had nothing, absolutely nothing. They're just ignoring absolutely everything. Now, I should think that's possibly deliberately to test me again. But I mean, I just find that sick. I find that sickening, the fact that they will take something that they knew I loved so much, and I'll never see that again, even if it's a test for me. I think that's just disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful. But anyway, it is what it is, and that's the hardest thing for me, is my losing my dog, to be honest with you. Those who took his stuff just demons. Humans, when they forget Creator is almighty. I hope it was Bill Gates. Did you get video footage? Oh, that's somebody else you're talking to, sorry. I wonder how many of us in this chat have a hit list of who they want gone. Was this when you were jailed? Sorry, I'm behind with the question, so I'm only seeing... Oh, yeah, sorry, the dog. So Rosie was taken when the day before I left prison. Yeah, they took her. Yes, that's not an easy part of this for me at all. I miss Rosie very much. But Tony, you no idea, seriously no idea what out of date. Gary, test if you turn bitter. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it could be a test for me. You know, if they really know or think I am this person, then of course that could be a very good test for me. Am I going to be turned vengeful? You know, and I've remained fairly amicable, even though they took Rosie. It's quite hard for me to deal with that, but yeah. When they took your dog. Yes, yeah, sorry, yeah. Hi, Gary. Luke on break. The channel wants to interview you. I'll break the ice channel wants to interview you. Yeah, cool. Okay. I've got my priority's got to be the document. And obviously I need to keep doing some lives every now and then to get some of the evidence out as I'm doing the document. Once I've got the document out again, then I'll have a little bit more time again, but it's just so time consuming. That has got to be my priority, is getting the document, because that interview can be suppressed without me knowing, whereas the document can literally go out and, you know, be circulated by everybody, and that will get the evidence out more. The lives, they are suppressing it, but you know, I'm getting to 147 people. It was 200 continuously the other night. So every one of those people that are innocent will be telling, hopefully, everyone they know. So that will probably be 10 times that amount, depending on how many of you are innocent in this. Then that will, you know, be more. So, and it's important that they know that I'm letting people know I'm still alive, because otherwise what they can do is just try and unalive me and make it look like an accident or a health issue, which there isn't. You know, I'm not suicidal. I'm healthy. You know, I'm got no health problems other than my hip a little bit hurting every now and then. I've been on this bed. There's a hole in it. It's just so flat now. It only lasts about 3 hours and then the air's gone. So I'm literally on the hard ground. So I've got to try and find the hole in it at some point, and patch it up or buy another one. I've got some money, so I'm all right at the moment. But yes, Gary, that's what they want, is for our hearts to go dark like theirs. Yeah. Gary, you are always bang on the money, mate. Thank you very, very much, Glenn. I really appreciate it. You know, I'm just literally going by the evidence. You know, I'm not saying anything unless I've got the evidence to support it all. So, is it possible the dog is in a rescue pet centre? Well, I've been told that my wife's taken the dog, but I've even said on videos, can you send me a video? You know, and asked, and nothing whatsoever to know that she's still alive. She's probably not alive. I think, well, the information on what happened to me in prison suggests they were potentially not going to release me from prison and possibly unalive me in prison, possibly, which means they probably would have got rid of Rosie early. And it wouldn't surprise me, because you've got, now I don't know how true it is, but there's obviously evidence of the harm that they cause to animals is a big part of all of this. My wife even said to me, and again, this could be a deliberate as part of this test. My wife even said that before we were splitting up, she said, I remember harming a dog when I was younger. And this was like, I've been with her for 17 years, and suddenly she comes out and says, I remember harming a dog when I was little. Now, whether that was a precursor to them knowing what was going to be happening, and they were going to remove my dog, and that was going to make me worry about the dog even more. I don't know. As a test, I don't know. Yeah, the more people that know, the better. Absolutely. Get a little doggy to warn you. In some ways, obviously I didn't want Rosie to be taken. Of course I didn't. But if I had Rosie with me in a tent, it would also be very, very difficult for me as well, wouldn't it? So I can't get another dog, because at the moment I have the freedom to not worry about a dog, so I can do what I'm doing, and it would just create that, extra difficult situation for me now. Of course, I would love to have had Rosie and just dealt with that, but they've taken her. So, Gary, are you familiar with the Lincoln Colony? Yes, Drew's. Yes, I've heard about that. I haven't researched it, but I have looked at it. We're also going to be talking about, I think that time with the Stuarts. I'm going to be talking about the Stuarts in a minute, the Stuart family, who believe they are bloodline of Christ as well. But they're massively implicated in all of this. So I suspect that's part of a deception. It's possible I'm somehow a Stuart connected. I don't know. There must be some of you staying close. So help Gary. I can't meet with anybody. I can't meet with anyone. There'll come a point where I can, but I've got to make sure I've got, the key evidence together and it's being circulated. I need to protect the evidence, so I have to stay alone until and I'll know when that's the right time. I'll know when I can put myself at risk a bit more then. At the moment, we're getting there, aren't we, with this evidence I'm now finding about me is probably, I say that, but it seems as though it's possibly as far as I'm going to be able to go with it. I don't know, but nature will warn him. Yeah, I'm very instinctive. Someone's put nature will warn me. I'm so instinctive. Obviously that was built into me within the police a little bit as well, having your instincts about you. But yeah, I mean the fact that I had this voice, literally it was telling me, do not go to the place where I was going to go, and I went against it, and then you had a helicopter flying over me. I mean, it's pretty unreal, that is. I've never had that to that extent, where I was literally having a voice, or not a voice, but it was to the point where I was like, is that me saying that? Was that the creator? And I was like, I'm sure I'll be all right, I'll do it. And then lo and behold, this helicopter came over that night. So Gary, can you help me to understand the bigger picture here? I'm aware of the alleged crimes and rings of people, companies. Are you in a position, because you are a former cop, who's speaking out? Okay, well, it's looking as though, from all of the evidence, that I'm going to be somebody more significant in that, and that it looks as though they've known that all of my life. But yeah, the situation all the way through my life now converges on this. I mean, the fact that I didn't have children, the fact that I had a motorhome, the fact that I love nature, the fact that I've been camping, which enables me to do this, the fact that I can live with all of these, difficulties, the fact that I was able to, in the police, build the evidence and know what evidence I need to, look for and how to present it. Although they've taken my spell check away, so it could be a lot better, and it's all on my phone, so it makes it that little bit more difficult. But I know basically what information I need to put in there and how to put it in a way that will be evidentially purposeful, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think I was destined for this, and I think we're getting to the idea as to why I've been destined for it. And I keep thinking, well, what if they're just setting the evidence up to make it seem like that way? And that doesn't make sense, because they've been doing it from when I was young. So why would you do that from when I was young if it just doesn't make sense? Doesn't make sense. Trust your instincts. Yeah, absolutely. Training in the heart and mind. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, got a stingy eye. I'm going to carry on because I just want to get this out tonight, and then I'm going to be working on the document tomorrow. So I'll give my email out shortly. If you want to grab a pen, or if someone doesn't mind putting it in the comments for me when I say it, that would be great, please. I'll just do that in a minute to give people a chance. And then if you email me for the document, I will try and get it out. It's going to be a few more days yet, because I need to get this all into the document yet and make sure it's all, makes sense to everybody. So my email address is Gary, the truth sets us free at gmail.com. That's Gary with one R, the truth sets us free at gmail.com. Gary, the truth sets us free at gmail.com. And my other email address is Gary, time for freedom at proton.me. It's Gary, time for freedom at proton.me. Hopefully you got that. I'll just give it one more time. Gary, the truth sets us free at gmail.com. And Gary, time for freedom at proton.me. It's one R in Gary, and the 4 within time for freedom is an FOR. One more time, because I know what it's like, where people might not have got it. So Gary, the truth sets us free at gmail.com, the first one. And Gary, time for freedom at proton.me. Now, if there's been a bit of a delay for me sending the document out because of this latest evidence, what they appear to be doing is removing some of my older emails to make it more difficult for me to get the document out. So I'm only able to see after a certain amount of time scale, and it's not my settings or anything. I've looked at that. It's not me deleting them. This is just where they're removing them, it looks like, because they're all compromised. All email accounts are compromised by the fraud. So I'm hoping when I actually get to send them out, there'll still be enough emails and I can get you that document out to you. If not, then I'll just have to do another video saying, look, really sorry, can you send me another email? It's ready to send out. Ping me another email and then I'll get it out to you. So, Land Registry. So an organisation that Land Registry is closely connected to is the acronym for it is MHCLG, is connected to the Land Registry. And Land Registry goes back to key times. I haven't got it in front of me, unfortunately, that evidence. It's within my document. But the Land Registry is a big part of this, okay, where what they are doing is they're using the fraud. They're using fake wills that they're falsifying. This is our government and the police and our government organisations involved in this, okay? Falsifying wills, falsifying life insurances, and everything's fraud, basically. Absolutely everything you're living under is a crime under their own laws, okay? And then what they're able to do through that falsification and then false court documents as well is basically end up trying to own and take over the entire world through the Land Registry system, okay? But they don't actually own any of it because it's all forgery. So it's quite interesting, really, because they don't own any of it. So, and this is what they've done with me, with my property, my joint property with my wife. So a search for this acronym reveals MHCL. So the acronym was MHCLG, but this reveals MHCL without the G on it, linking to the Land Registry. And this is MHCL Holdings Limited that have been incorporated on the 27th of October 2017. You notice how a lot of this is after the Pizzagate scandal has been exposed. So what they're doing is they're closing down a lot of the companies, starting up new ones and using them to launder the money through as the crimes against the children appear to be being exposed in relation to this. Now, I do have to say, of course, again, it's possible the Pizzagate was staged to awaken Christ consciousness within certain individuals, okay? Now, the evidence that supports that is that in 2017, you had this St. Puy X representing Christ's bloodline. Possibly, we have to consider Christ consciousness as well, through the bloodline or through consciousness in everyone as well, we have to consider. That then was extended indefinitely, linking in with the Vatican from 2017 as well. So that means potentially the Pizzagate scandal was staged and wasn't real to try and awaken the conscience of humanity and give humanity the test. Are they going to actually, I'm not saying it is the case, but this is what we have to consider is possibly going on to give humanity the chance to stand up and prevent all of this, or face the consequences if they don't, which is what we've just been talking about. The company dissolved in April 2025 as the exposure continued. It has a registered address in Southampton in Hampshire, where Deborah Fleming had been the NHS CEO and retired to become involved with my inquiries at Exbourne Manor, Exbourne or Bourne X. Martin Justin Harris connects MHCL Holdings Limited to MB, so Mike Bravo, and the and symbol M, Mike again, so Mike Bravo and symbol Mike again, M, letter M, Global Limited. That had been incorporated in 2018 and dissolved in December 2020. Its incorporation document shows Michael Silverman of an address in Florida, which is where, not the same address, but obviously Donald Trump lives in Florida, has a property in Florida and other locations. There's also an address in the Netherlands on that incorporation document. This is where it gets interesting. So a separate search for MB and M reveals MB and M PEP, so PEP Nominees Limited. Now, that had been incorporated on the 23rd of March 1991, a key year. This is when David Icke came out and said the world would be devastated by earthquakes and tsunamis. It's when my favourite movie, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, came out, okay, which links into ingenious film partners back on the incorporation document of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales that connects all areas of the fraud practically and to my upbringing as well. 1991 is also the year when the relativistic heavy ion collider technology started to be built in New York, and scientists said it may cause the end of the world through black holes. Carol Hope connects this company to 21 companies, including Action of Churches Together in Scotland and l'Association de Juristes, it's a French company, Franco-Britanniques, afterwards in English, the Franco-British Lawyers Society Limited, okay, because this is international collaborative deception against all of humanity, and we now have this French link to the English via the land registry connection. But listen to where it goes. This is the exact same record, that company, shown in the research of the judge for the Kenneth Noy M25 murder. Immediately coming in from the research of the judge, you hit that company. Now, the Kenneth Noy element of this evidence is absolutely huge. He was a Freemason. He links to the bloodstock trade all the way through the research. He is massively linked into key individuals in all of this. The evidence from him and his family also goes straight to Exbourne Manor, and it links in with the Collider and earthquake technology companies as well via my research. Far too quickly to be a coincidence, everybody, from Kenneth Noy. And he was, as you're aware, convicted of supposedly, I doubt he even went in prison, supposedly convicted of stabbing somebody on the M25, and the judge links to that company, or the research from the judge goes straight to that company that we've just looked at. It also connects immediately to the death of Scott Young, okay, and alleged multiple murders involving the Russian government and linked to the Dundee United Football Club. This then ties back in with the Vatican via Michelle Young. Okay, Michelle Young was sat next to Gordon Bowden whilst Gordon Bowden was talking about the non-verification element of the Companies House fraud. Now, we have to consider he did that conference the same year that I resigned from the police. Okay, that conference had been set up by somebody who is linked into the Vatican. Was that deliberately done for me to identify it? The same year I resigned from the police because they knew who I was, linking in with the Vatican? I have to consider that. Okay, he links in with the blood of the children via the research, via Sasha Stone, who set up that conference, the International Courts of Natural Justice. That also links into the threat from the cell towers. He claimed that the cell towers were a threat to end, to be an extinction event. I now have to consider that all of that evidence around the cell towers was deliberately arranged so that to test me, to see if I would be the only person on earth to publicise themselves disabling a cell tower, thinking it was a real threat. I have to consider that. At the moment, I still have to consider that's a real threat. But I also have to consider, was that all staged because of the links to the Vatican and Rome to me, and all of this, all tying into me? Did they do that deliberately because they wanted to see if I would still disable a cell tower? Now, Mark Steele said to me, Mark Steele worked with Sasha Stone. He's the one talking about the cameras, okay, in the congestion charge cameras or whatever you call them in the cities, saying they are a directed energy weapon. But he's not out there cutting them down himself. Neither are the Blade Runners. I believe they're all positioned and compromised as part of this, possibly because of who I am in all of this, okay? Now, he worked with Sasha Stone, he connects via the research or records in his name to Bournemouth. Okay, very key parts of the fraud around Exborn Manor. This is the person claiming that they are directed energy weapons. Now, he was happy to collaborate and arrange a meeting with me and Rob the Ratcatcher, who was the peace officers, who's doing more videos at the moment. Interesting. People are sending me those videos of him. They were going to arrange for me to meet with them and me disable a cell tower myself. Hold on. If you really believe they are a directed energy weapon, why aren't you disabling them? He tried to convince me that it was an offence under the Terrorism Act. It's not an offence under the Terrorism Act. With the amount of evidence, it's overwhelming. It is not an offence under the Terrorism Act. This explains why when I tried to trigger my own investigation, after they stopped me in the van, and I was asking them to interview me in the hope that I could literally expose the entire world system and stop it, they refused, and I still have never received an interview to explain in a way that you have to be entitled to. You need to be given the opportunity to express and provide evidence about why what you did. They've refused to do it, everybody, because they know as soon as I sit in an interview, it's over. The entire world system changes forever from that day. Okay, that's why they didn't interview me, and they know. Okay, the only way they can do this now in relation to the offence they're claiming that I've committed, which there isn't an offence because of the defences in law. Okay, there's defences under the Criminal Damage Act in relation to it, which there is no crime in relation to what I did based on the evidence that I have. And of course, they haven't arrested me. So the only thing they can do is not interview me, cause an unlawful trial, and which is why I think David Lammy has come out. That was obviously because of me. David Lammy, the same month, okay, on the 5th of September 2025, David Lammy became the Justice Secretary. I then was arrested on the 19th of September that month, kept in prison until the 1st of October. I then was conducting correspondence with the legal teams within the Inverness court process, and 3 days after, the day after I had that correspondence, David Lammy comes out, it's all over the mainstream news, that they are considering getting rid of jury trials, which means a judge by themselves can, this is for some of the serious offences with up to 5 years imprisonment, which would be what they would be looking at for me for that cell tower. Okay, now I have to consider they did that deliberately for me to identify that they were deliberately setting that up for me, so that as a test again, would I identify that? Would I expose that it was for me? And therefore, does that support who I am in all of this as well? The timing of it is too coincidental. Now, David Lammy links immediately to the research of David Beckham and Victoria Beckham via the Company's House research. He links to Ingenious Film Partners too, which means he links back to me and my families. Okay, this is David Lammy. And he links to the Titanic companies as well, which then ties back into the Flemings and the 1912 Titanic disaster, which is all part of this. Right, anyway, let's get back to this evidence because I'm going to stop soon, fairly soon, after I've done this. So, we have this MB and M PEP nominees. Carol Hope, interesting name, probably deliberate. Connects to 21 companies, including Action, as I've said, Action for Churches, and this French company, as I've said, that links straight to the judge for the M25 murder with Kenneth Noy, straight to the death of Scott Young, the research, and into where they came out in October 2025 with an article trying to suggest that now there's 13 assassinations linked to Scott Young's death, and the Russian government being involved. That's a lie. That's a lie. They're all collaboratively involved in this. Whether the deaths are real, they're probably not even real deaths, to be honest with you. They possibly are, but, you know, as I said earlier, I have to be naive to think there's no deaths. So anyway, the Dundee Football Club evidence also links to Diocese of Dunkeld nominees. So you can see there's these links to the religious establishments all around this, which suggests that there is a falsified prophetic element in all of this. It makes major connections to the centralised criminal network, again, humanity, particularly children, according to the research. Hope, this same surname, same director, also connects to various Murray companies that I suspect relates to Andrew Murray's family, already significantly linked to the criminal network company, criminal Network and company Satanic Temple United Kingdom, Donald Trump, the Royals, Jimmy Savile, the earthquake companies, CERN, and major areas of the criminal network. Hope, the same director, also connects to a company with a number, CS173493 Limited, that have been incorporated on the 19th of March 1997 and is shown in being in the process of liquidation. It has Murray Keith Murray WS on its incorporation document. This now becomes very important in a minute. Notice the WS on the end here. Jennifer Elizabeth Mathias connects this company to 52 companies, including various open work companies. Open work making important connections to the linked corrupted child abuse investigation of former Archbishop of Canterbury Justin Welby and John Smith, and the South Bank child abuse inquiry, to the Southport stabbings in 2024, and to the research of the mockery of Christmas and Saturnalia linking to Satanic Temple United Kingdom, the BBC, the Royals, De Reyes, the Vatican, the murder of Jill Dando, Sweeney Todd Group, and directly to the Welsh Rugby Union Limited, where Mathias, this name that we're looking at, connected these companies, is also a former director. Referring back to Hope, they also connect to, this is where we get really important evidence, okay, and I only established this today. Referring back to Hope, the same director, they also connect to Great Stewart Trustees Limited. We've already talked about the Stewarts. Listen to this. This was incorporated in 1999. It has J and R A Robertson and WS Ian Gare Anderson, who is a writer to the signet. Now, I'd never seen this on an incorporation document. Listen how important this becomes. So this is on the incorporation document. Ian Gare Anderson, a writer to the signet, and they are linked to a company called the Water of Leith Conservation. On the incorporation document, we've also got William Herbert Shepherd, who is also a writer to the signet. We're going to come to this in a minute, why this is important. And Charles Johnson, writer to the signet, SIGNET. I suspect this company will relate to the Stewart family, which links to Bavaria, and from the research where they appear to believe they have divine bloodline in Jesus, giving them the ability to rule as shown elsewhere in the document. In relation to the writers in the signet, the research suggests that the Society of Writers to His Majesty's Signet is a private society of Scottish solicitors dating back to 1594 and part of the College of Justice. Writers to the signet originally had special privileges in relation to the drawing up of documents required to be signated, but these have since disappeared, and the society is now an independent, non-regulatory association of solicitors. Okay, so in other words, they can pretty much do what they want from the sounds of it. They maintain a signet library, part of the Parliament House complex in Edinburgh, and members of the society are entitled to the post-nominal letters WS. Remember, we said the WS afterwards, and I've seen that on a few of the companies, and I now know why. So they are obviously very important letters after the company name connecting into this criminal network. Lady Elish Frances Margaret is the current, have I put it there? She's one of the main people in this Writers of the Signet. There's a bit I've missed here, but Lady Elish Frances Margaret Angeloni, okay, Angeloni, born on the 24th of June 1960, is a Scottish lawyer currently serving as Lord Clerk Register, the first woman to hold the role since its creation in the 13th century. And suddenly, in 2025, they positioned a woman. I suspect now, if I'm wrong, I apologize to her. I suspect she's transgender. Okay, because what I'm finding is the transgender movement is coinciding with everything, and it looks as though they are positioning what they're claiming are first women in loads of positions of high authority, particularly in relation to the defense element, okay, and weapons systems. I suspect they are men that they are positioning. And there's somebody who is, I think Rachel Reeves is probably a transgender. I'm sorry, Rachel, if you watch this. If you're aware of Rachel Reeves, you might agree with me based on certain elements of her. And this is definitely part of the inversion agenda, okay, involving this criminal network. You've also got the new Archbishop of Canterbury, who for the first time ever is a woman, supposedly a woman. Remember, an inversion of creation. We then have, she was appointed Lord High Commissioner of the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland, the British monarch's representative to the Assembly in 2025, succeeding Prince Edward, Duke of Edinburgh. And Angeloni, her name, was a pro-vice chancellor of the University of Oxford from 2017, after the Peatsgate scandal, until 2025, as I continue to expose everything, and served as the principal of St Hugh's College in Oxford, which is very, very relevant to the Maxwells, where they were prominent in Oxford, from 2012, which is when CERN discovered the Higgs boson or God particle, until 2025, when I was exposing the international government fraud linking in with CERN. She was also a candidate in the 2024 University of Oxford Chancellor. Oh, sugar. Just gone completely off the page where I was. Oh, yeah. That's luckily I haven't gone too far away yet. She was also the Lord Advocate of Scotland from 2006, when I moved from Kent to Dorset, until 2011, when the Christchurch earthquake happened and Jimmy Savile died, having previously been the Solicitor General since 2001, when the World Trade Center disaster happened. She was the first woman, the first Procurator Fiscal, and the first solicitor to hold either post. Since leaving office, she has led several investigations and inquiries, including a review of deaths in police custody, giving the ability to unalive people in custody and cover it up. Okay, listen to where the evidence goes with her. She was also, by then, Home Secretary Theresa May, and the inquiry in relation to the murder of Sarah Everard. Now, I've done significant evidence around Sarah Everard. It is massively connected into everything I'm talking about. She was the lady that was supposedly taken and killed by an off-duty police officer. Massively, the evidence around that is huge within my document, which reported in February 2024. She was born into a family of Irish Catholic descent. Her parents being Mary and James McPhillamy. She grew up in Glasgow. Her father was a coal merchant and worked for Rolls-Royce. Rolls-Royce connects immediately to the evidence that I've got of Prince Harry wearing Madeleine McCann's skin at the time of Jeffrey Epstein's arrest. That Rolls-Royce is critical to that evidence. Her parents being, I'll mention that. Sorry. Sugar. Yeah, she married Italian Domenico Angiolini in 1995. We'll come to him in a minute. Italian. A company sales search connects her to 6 companies, including Scottish Opera, that had been incorporated in 1962, the same year of the apparent infiltration of the royal family linked to the Krays, and the incorporation of the important Nazi Jeffrey Epstein and CERN-linked company Siemens, that changed its name for the first time on the 5th of May since 1962, 5th of May 2025, after I had exposed its connection to Jeffrey Epstein via the Edge Foundation, which makes connections, remember, to the Collider evidence that I told you about earlier. It has a forged register. So this is somebody extremely high up, okay, within a royal family linked organization, okay, involved in major fraud now, okay, tied to, it looks like, the Stuart family, which then goes into royalty, because in fact, I think I'll come to that in a minute, so I'll hold that for a second. So it has a forged register. It's a criminal organization. Okay, with the Scottish Opera Society on its incorporation document that hasn't been mentioned on the register, so they've hidden that name. Okay, it's got a forged register. Opera companies make significant connections throughout the research and the fraud to the earthquakes and to the collider technology, with the experiment being conducted by CERN and an Italian facility at the time of the Christchurch earthquake being called the Opera experiment. This links in with the Doomsday Cult, okay, linked to Julian Assange, which means all three of my families, which means me. So this now connects to me, this signet, going back to the 13th century. Okay, now this obviously not me personally back then, but it becomes immediately relevant because of the connection to the Doomsday Cult. Now, at the time of the Christchurch earthquake on the 22nd of February 2011, Julian Assange was in Kent. Okay, a connection to Bexley is made. Remember the Collider company I've told you about, Bexley Heath, linking with my families. Julian Assange was in that area. Okay, there was somebody that was assisting him with the bail at the time. That name of a Saunders surname goes straight to an address in Bournemouth, okay, near Dorset, near Exbourne Manor. That exact same address, it's not even the same road, it's a flat in Bournemouth in St. Peter's, what's the name of it? St. Peter's Court, St. Peter's Road, I think it, or St. Stephen's Road, sorry. St. Stephen's Court, St. Stephen's Road, Bournemouth, right near Exbourne Manor, links straight to Tommy Robinson. It links to the Grenfell Tower fire disaster. It now links to this, and it connects coming in from the research of NASA via David Thompson, who I believe is a linked associate to the craze, goes through to that exact same address, everybody, immediately, practically from every area. Sometimes it's not straight away, but it's far too quick to be a coincidence, everybody. Now that address, if you go and look at it on Google Maps, St. Stephen's Court, St. Stephen's Road, Bournemouth, you'll see it's right next to a Samaritans. Okay, Samaritans are heavily implicated in the criminal network, massively, as are all charitable organisations that they've set up, the Freemasons. So we have this opera company. Julian Ellen connects Scottish Opera to 12 companies, including Federation of Scottish Theatre, making an immediate connection to Michelle MacLeod, who became the Police Investigations and Crime Commissioner in Scotland. Where are we? Police Investigation and Review Commissioner in Scotland in 2019, which is obviously on the lead up to the COVID deception. And I suspect makes bloodline connections to Donald Trump's mother, who has the same surname, and the apparent corrupted descendants of St. Columbus in the Iona prophecy of the end of the world. Because you have, via the research of St. Columbus and the Iona prophecy, you have a connection to the MacLeod name. Donald Trump's mother was surname of MacLeod. Okay, his grandfather had lived in Bavaria in 1870 at the time of the new Germanic Empire when the Vatican was infiltrated. His mother was born in 1912, the same year as the Titanic disaster. She lived on the Isle of Lewis off the coast of Scotland. I've already done research from that name. It goes straight into the fraud, back into Donald Trump, so we know it's all connected to this. Okay, her surname was MacLeod, and as I've said, the Iona prophecy, which is an island off the coast of Scotland, and the end of the world prophecy, where they were trying to get me to believe it was going to be the end of the world via nuclear weapons all being fired into one location, involving and using Julia Vandal, who was claiming to be Madeleine McCann at the same time, to support that, and Donald Trump publicizing videos worldwide at the same time, linking into a threat of nuclear war with Iran. This was back in 2024. It was around the time that Justin Welby resigned as the Archbishop of Canterbury, and when soon afterwards you had all the drones going up all around the world. It's no coincidence that this was all being timed around what I was doing, everybody. So that now makes this connection to the Stuarts, and you'll see there's more. It also makes an immediate connection, okay, via this organization of this police to UNICEF. And UNICEF was created in 1946. I think that's the same year that Donald Trump was born. And UNICEF is the organization that's supposedly helping children in times of conflict. The evidence suggests it was the opposite, and it was actually to get children, create the conflicts deliberately, get the children from those conflicts. According to all of the research, this is what it's saying. I have to say that this is what the case at the moment. I hope it's a deception. However, there's too much overwhelming evidence because we've got the link in with the vampirism and the blood. So it suggests that UNICEF was set up to take the children for their blood trafficking, organ harvesting, and this explains why you've got so many children apparently going missing around the world. This also explains why they are highlighting specifically Madeleine McCann, even though there's hundreds of thousands of children that they are telling us are going missing around the world. Madeleine McCann is the most important girl in the world going missing, and that's because of the link to Prince Harry, according to the research that I've got. So we have this immediate link to UNICEF from this as well. There are significant connections to the centralized criminal network, apparent crimes against humanity and children, and links to the apparent falsified prophecy agenda from other directors of this company. In relation to her husband, there is very little information for him at all. This is Domenico Angiolini, but a person of that name, but seemingly younger, is mentioned in an article from February 2024 linked to Osborne Clark, which appears to be making connections to the Krays, to the Queen Victoria, and back into, therefore, the Stuarts, because Queen Victoria is connected to the Stuarts. The research around Queen Victoria then links into the Isle of Wight and makes links via the White House Limited to the American government, tying in with all of this. And remember, I'll go back to, remember the importance of Hampshire appears to be the Portals company. It was incorporated in 1711 and then started creating the currency around the world through the Bank of England initially. Is how it began in 1724. And then you had, around this time, you had colonists that went from Hampshire in Dorset to, which they named New Hampshire in Northern America, which then ties in with the start of the American Civil War, I think it was called, wasn't it? And that links in with the Russell family. And the Russell family appeared to be linked into Russell and Co. and international drug supply, which is being used as a cover, if you like. It's all obviously illegal, but a cover for the blood of the children in relation to that. And someone sent me a message earlier. I haven't checked it, but apparently Donald Trump has just issued a executive order to allow magic mushrooms to now become legal. Right. So what they are now trying to do, it looks like, if that's true, is lead into even further now into the removal of moral conscience through the removal of rationality. All right. Because when you have clarity, and you have, as I keep saying, when you have clarity and rationality, you're in touch with the Creator, and your moral conscience is your foundation. When you lose that rationality, whether it be through drugs, alcohol, or whatever, too tired because they're making you work too hard, you then separate from the Creator. This appears to be now what they're driving towards. You're probably going to see they start trying to legalize a lot of drugs. A lot of people will be thinking, well, that's great. It's not, everybody. Okay, you don't need drugs. Okay, you think you do. Some of you think you do because it's the only way you can relax. No, it's the system that is creating the drugs that creates the problem, and that system then makes you want to have more drugs. It will then separate you ultimately from the Creator. It will lead to the destruction of everything. If we don't bring ourselves back in line with nature and create the Creator and the moral conscience, which is so important in all of this, they are the ones with the I won't say mental health problem, but I think the biggest psychological problem that humans now have is the separation from moral conscience, or separation from rationality, which then creates that separation from moral conscience, because then you separate from the Creator. And I think this is done by design, everybody. It's done by design. Remember, you got all of these satanic links through this, but it's also running in line with, the connections into the bloodlines of Jesus. Remember, we said about the bloodline of the Illuminati, and it looks as though the 13th bloodline have the link to not only Jesus, but also to Lucifer, who was the blood of Jesus, potentially, or whatever Jesus' real name was. And I have to assume, based on all of my evidence, that Jesus was a real person, and that he was good, and that there's a fine line now between us being driven or going into the end of creation, and before that, a very sinister, dark time on Earth, or us creating heaven on Earth through this evidence and through using this evidence to empower you to change the world forever. Right, get a bit. So, yeah, there's very little information about him. However, this connection to this company, Osborne, I suspect if he is real, he's very likely going to be linked to the Vatican, I would think. In relation to Ian Banfield, he became an interim head of the Land Registry in 2019, I think. The organisation that he used to work for before then was the Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy, or CIPFA, and it's based a UK-based organisation for accountants who work in the public sector, accounting firms, and other professional bodies where management of public funds are required. Okay, this is really important. Remember, this whole system is about them stealing money from you through the public funds and other financial institutions, so via the tax and other financial institutions, and then funneling into whatever agenda they are involved in. And it obviously looks as though the blood of the children and potentially the end of all of creation. Accounting firms, CIFA is the only UK professional accountancy organisation who is dedicated to public financial management. They currently have approximately 14,000 members. They offer qualifications. So this is who the head of Land Registry, okay, that was positioned, I think, in 2019, he used to work for, including a professional qualification for public sector accountants, as well as the postgraduate diploma for people already working in management. CIPFA is a member of the Consultative Committee of Accountancy Bodies, the umbrella organisation for the British accountancy profession. It also belongs to the International Federation of Accountants. CIPFA began life as the Corporate Treasurers and Accountants Institute in 1885, which was later renamed the Institute of Municipal Treasurers and Accountants in 1901. Now, 1901 is the year, bearing in mind we've just been talking about this, that Queen Victoria died. Okay, and she died on the Isle of Wight in Osborne House. Remember, we've just mentioned Osborne Clark, linking him with the same surname, exact same name as the leader of this organisation, to do with the rights of the what do you call it? I can't remember now, but what we were talking about a minute ago, sorry. So this later became the Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy in 1973, the same year that the World Trade Center was finished and completed, and when the SWIFT international transaction system started to be used in the criminal network. It's also the year of Soylent Green, that the movie came out that appears to be relating to me, even though I had not even been born at that point. When it obtained the Royal Charter, a company's house search for CIPFA reveals Capital Management Consultancy that was incorporated as CIPFA Computer Services Limited in 1984 before its name was changed to Capita Limited. Capita connects immediately to the Hampstead child abuse inquiry involving the blood of the children and major areas of the criminal network. The directors connect the company to many other Capita companies. Julian Ross Ellens connects Capita Management Consultancy Limited to Milton Keynes Mind and Mind companies, make important and immediate links to the crimes against children and the centralised criminal network by the Feversham child abuse inquiry, as shown elsewhere. The Mind Group was also founded in 1946, the same year as the UNICEF, which supposedly is to help children in times of conflict. It looks as though it's exactly the opposite, and it looks as though the blood is relevant. And I haven't mentioned this too much, but it now has become very relevant. There is a company that was established from the research of the blood and organ harvesting, criminal blood and organ harvesting, linking into the NHS, called Tramp to Vamp. Tramp to Vamp. Bearing in mind we're talking about vampirism, that was incorporated with the exact same company as Exborn Manor Freehold Limited. Guess when it was incorporated? 2 days after the World Trade Center disaster, on the 13th of September 2001. What did they do before the World Trade Center disaster? They repealed the on the 1st of 1st of September 2001, they repealed the Genocide Act, meaning genocide does not exist in England, which means they can commit genocide. What does one part of the Genocide Act say? You can't take children from times of conflict. Okay, that meant they could take children from times of conflict, remove the accountability and liability, okay, and commit those crimes against the children for their blood. In 2000, so that was on the 1st of September 2001 in England. They repealed the act, which means they got rid of it. On the 17th of 17th of September 2001, 6 days after the World Trade Center disaster, Scotland repealed the act. Now, we could say, and I still have to consider, this has all been done deliberately for me to find it because of who I am. That's very, very possible in all of this, everybody. It's possible. Everything, even the scripture, was falsified with the crucifix actually representing an X with a real bloodline to eventually lead to this moment in time now with somebody or a group of people potentially being the real bloodline of the real Christ. It's possible that's the case. The whole lot has been set up potentially. Ellen's, this same person, also connects to Bedfordshire Golf Club Limited that was incorporated in January 1997. It dissolved in 2023 as I escalated the exposure of the fraud. It has Wildman and Battelle on its incorporation document. Wildman and Battelle features at important times throughout the research, including directly to Ambassador Snooker Club Limited, linked immediately to Jimmy Savile's former property in Exbourne Manor. And Jimmy Savile actually owned Ambassador Snooker Club, which is in Bournemouth Town Centre. Okay, and the address on the incorporation document linking to that company goes straight to the building where Jimmy Savile had a property that is linked directly to Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. This is via Wildman and Battelle. Wildman and Battelle also links immediately to Crown Finance Corporation in the research of the royal family. It also links to a record for a Robert Francis Kennedy, JFK Jr. It also connects to the British Deer Society Sales and Services Limited, linked quickly to Mountbatten and Mountbatten and Spencer Family Company in the research stemming from Jim Carey. To also directly to Devereux Bouvert Group Limited in the research of Jacqueline Onassis, who was the wife of JFK before his assassination. Links to a record of Russian Sergei Karelov in the research of the Cuban Missile Crisis. This is immediately. To the Academy of Spiritual Science in the research of King Arthur. To the which links to the Honourable Society of the Knights of the Round Table that links back to me. To the research of the death of Liam Payne, who supposedly fell from the balcony. To Instate Limited and the Bexley Trust for Adult Student, quickly from the research of Field Fisher, making links to the BBC, Royals, De Reyes, Sweeney Todd Group, the death of Jill Dando again, the Vatican, and major areas of the criminal network. To Rachel Watson, the head of the Independent Office for Police Conduct, and Evangelical Press and Services Limited. To Cheryl Tweedy from Girls Aloud, believe it or not. To the British Independent Film Awards, CIC, making major connections to the entertainment industry via Intermission Film Limited, as shown elsewhere. That all makes that connection directly from that document because of Wildman and Battelle. Ellen's also connects to Milton Keynes Shopping Centre Association Limited that had been incorporated in 1980, the same year that Georgia Guidestones were erected, representing an upcoming man-made apocalyptic event. Somebody has told me that Milton Keynes is very much a Freemasonic area. Milton Keynes is almost directly in the centre of England. When you look at England, I think it's in the centre of England and Wales. It might just be England, actually. It's almost directly in the centre of England. Slightly off, but almost. It has a registered address of Mercer and Hull on its registration there, which links to the research of Julian Assange and the Doomsday Cult, and that is from that research where I told you it then goes to the building near Exbourne Manor that links to Tommy Robinson. Linked to the Doomsday Cult, and it is a criminal company with a forged register. The search for CIPFA also reveals CIPFA Business Limited. Remember, this is talking about the Land Registry Limited that had been incorporated in 1989 when the World Wide Web was created for CERN. It has an added handwritten number within there, suggesting the incorporation document has been forged. Owen Neville Mapley connects this company to CCAB Limited. That links directly to Grand Opera House Trust and to Exbourne Manor, where my investigation began, and major areas of the centralised criminal network of accountants, solicitors, and financial advisors, as shown in the research of the IRA deception. It also links directly to ICAEW companies identified from Jim Carrey at the Caesar Awards, giving the name of a partner, which I now think was deliberate. They knew, or they thought I might pick up on what he said when he was wearing, it wasn't even him, I don't think, but he said he was in a relationship with a very unusual name. I researched that name, and it led to ICAEW companies, which proved that the world has a centralized accountancy criminal network of accountants right around the world in relation to this international government fraud, and that connects straight to that exact same company that I established from Jim Carrey. And that's coming in from the land registry. So what they are doing is literally stealing everything from everyone, targeting everyone, all the children, causing suffering to all of the world. This is why it's linked in with the falsified prophecies. And if we don't stop this, then all of the evidence suggests it's only going to get a lot worse, and probably the end of creation. I've got to say that because that's what the evidence is pointing towards. So again, the plea is everybody get behind me, get behind the evidence. Don't rely on me, because if I'm no longer here, then you can't be relying on me. This is why you need to be using this evidence to actually make the difference and make the change. One thing, I will just mention this because this is about the Stuart family. So just if you're not aware of the Stuart family, this is what it says about them. The House of Stuarts links to the House of Stuart links to Jesus are primarily rooted in mythology, political theology, and esoteric theories rather than mainstream genealogy. The Stuarts asserted the divine right of kings, presenting themselves as God's anointed rulers, while some literature and modern speculative theories, like those in the Holy Blood and Holy Grail, which then links back into the other research I've done, and links to my ring, to link them to bloodline of originating from a supposed survival of Jesus. Research shows that the House of Stuart, originally spelt Stuart with EW, also known as the Stuart dynasty, was a royal house of Scotland, England, Ireland, and later Great Britain. The family name comes from the office of High Steward of Scotland, first held by the family progenitor Walter Fitz-Alan in 1150. The name Stuart and variations had become established as a family name by the time of his grandson Walter Stuart. The first monarch of the Stuart line was Robert II. He and his descendants were monarchs of Scotland in 1371 and of England, Ireland, and Great Britain from 1603 until 1714. Mary, Queen of Scots, was brought up in France, where she adopted the French spelling of the name Stuart. After the loss of the throne, the descendants of James, whatever the number is, continued for several generations to attempt to reclaim the Scottish and English and later British throne as the rightful heirs, their supporters being known as Jacobites. Since the early 19th century, when the James II direct line failed, there have been no active claimants from the Stuart family. The current Jacobite heir to the claims of the historical Stuart monarchs as a distinctive cousin, Franz, Duke of Bavaria, of the House of Wittelsbach, which links to the Windsor family. The senior living member of the Royal Stuart family, descended as a legitimate male line of Robert II of Scotland in Andrew Richard Stuart, 9th Earl Castle Stuart. Franz Alberta Maria Herzog von Bayern, born 1933, commonly known by the courtesy title of Duke of Bavaria, is the head of the House of Wittelsbach, the former ruling family of the Kingdom of Bavaria. Remember, we've already mentioned Bavaria, how this links in with Donald Trump. His great-grandfather, King Ludwig III, was the last ruling monarch of Bavaria, being deposed in 1918. Company's House search shows Franz Bayer with one letter different, having been appointed to Slow Wind Limited for 7 months only in 1994, before the Hackler International Advisory Board was created, linking with the Russian government. The company had been incorporated in 1989, the same year that the World Wide Web was created for CERN. Its name had been last changed in 2015, and it dissolved in October 2016 after the Pizzagate scandal had been exposed, and 2 months after the apparent ritual at CERN linking to earthquakes. It is shown, something is shown on its registered address. Oh, SKF something, I can't read that. Something is shown on its registered address. SKF UK Limited had been incorporated in 1910, and fairly unusually for a company that old, does not have any other previous names. It has a forged register and what looks like Skefco ball bearing company on its incorporation document. Sir William Barlow connects this company, SKF UK Limited, to 12 companies, many of which are important in the criminal network and apparent threats posed by them behind the system. These include Vodafone Group Public Limited Company, that was incorporated as Rakow Strategic Radio Limited in 1984, and its name was last changed from Vodafone AirTouch Public Limited Company in 2000. It has J. Bencher Esquire Raquel Electronic PLC on its incorporation document. Margarita Della Vale connects Vodafone Group Public Limited Company to Centrica PLC, that had been a criminal organisation, had been incorporated with the same companies as Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited. It's shown throughout the research, Centrica companies. Delphine Ernott Consu connects Vodafone Group Public Limited Company to EE Limited, that had been incorporated in 1989 when the World Wide Web was created for CERN. Its name was last changed in 2013 when it was called Everything Everywhere. Now, I suspect, remember, we're talking about the end of everything everywhere. I suspect this represents the end of everything everywhere Limited. It was, I suspect, relates to the agenda. The incorporation document shows Howard Thomas of a City Road address and OYE services. The Howard Thomas name connects to my wife's family almost immediately and into the CERN Collider technology, which it suggests they were planning to end all of creation through that technology. Stephen Roy Scott connects Vodafone Group Public Limited Company to 113 companies, including many criminal Vodafone companies. They also link to Orr Macintosh Foundation, that makes important connections elsewhere, including to Their World, which relates to children, and the research of the 3-Eye Atlas comet deception, and to Solicitors Brono Group Limited, Brono Group, shown in the research of Kenneth Noy again, and making critical links to the criminal network. John Reginald Hartnell Bond connects Vodafone Group Public Limited Company to 11 companies, including the following companies: Hong Kong Association, that has a forged register; the Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation Limited, that has a discrepancy on its incorporation, on its overview, with the date of the registration of 1993, but the previous name stating 1908, with a name change in 1989 when the World Wide Web was created for CERN. It dissolved in 2023 as I escalated the exposure. They also connect to HSBC Bank. Now, these organisations, I suspect, could be linking in with the international drug trafficking trade, tying in with China and the Russell and Company Group. HSBC Bank PLC, that was incorporated as Midland Bank Public Limited Company in 1880, before its name was changed in 1999. It has a forged register. This is HSBC Bank, with Birmingham Midshire on its documents. They also connect to the London Stock Exchange PLC. It was incorporated as the International Stock Exchange of the United Kingdom and Republic of Ireland in 1986 before its name was changed for the only time according to its overview in 1995, the same year that the intelligence agency, royal family and Russian government-linked Hackler International Advisory Company, which links to me, was incorporated. And it dissolved after being exposed. This company has a forged register. This means the whole London Stock Exchange is criminal, everybody. It didn't have to be. It's all been set up deliberately criminal, linking in with the Vatican, going back to the Reformation, tying in with the falsified prophecies, and in with what it looks like the bloodline of Christ. They also connect to Orange Limited. It was incorporated in 1995 and connects immediately to the centralised criminal network by Hackwood secretaries on its incorporation document. It connects to Tata Steel UK Limited, a criminal company linked immediately to Exborn Manor Freehold Limited, where my investigations began, and international criminal weapons companies shown throughout the research of the Association of Conservative Clubs linking in with the Russian government. Referring back to Barlow, they also connect SKF UK Limited to Chemring Group PLC. That is a criminal organisation featured throughout the document and links directly to Keller Group PLC, the control panel for the Large Hadron Collider. That company actually created the control panel for the Large Hadron Collider, which connects directly to my dreams, tying in with the end of creation using the collider technology. That Chemring Group company was investigated by the Serious Fraud Office. I can't remember what year, I want to say 2019. That was investigated. I suspect that was being used as a cover-up in relation to hiding, altering, concealing, or destroying evidence through that company. Barlow also connects to Foundation. This is critical. Barlow also connects, same director, to Foundation for Science and Technology, that links quickly to Ghislaine Maxwell and the Christchurch earthquake appeal that was incorporated on the year I was born in 1977, and it dissolved in December 2022, the month that I made the report of the fraud, the very first report. That then goes back to my year of birth, when you had the same person linked to that organisation who was can't remember the name, but he was something to do with a key role for the Prince of Wales, and he ended that role in 1977 when I was born. Barlow also connects to Ericsson Limited. It was incorporated in 1968. This is the year that the Pope died, and it has a forged register with Swedish Ericsson Telecommunications Limited on its incorporation document. Ericsson Companies makes important links through the document to the cell towers, to the apparent blood of the tortured children, to the vaccines in the military, and also to the person that introduced me to my wife in 2007. It also connects to the person that was collaborating with Anthony Roberts within a live stream, who was called Reynard Wilson, using an alias name. And in that live stream, Anthony Roberts, who was the previous acting chairman of companies of Exborn Manor, where my investigation began, and he resigned when I asked to look at the bank documents. Within that interview, within that live stream, Anthony Roberts confirmed that he had been colluding with Sonia Poulton. Sonia Poulton is an independent investigative journalist looking at the Madeleine McCann case. She is connected immediately via the research from Hillary Clinton to the Pizzagate scandal. Referring back to SKF UK Limited, Christopher Frank Thompson is in the People Record. What's his surname? Trotman is in the People Record and connects to 9 companies, including the King's in brackets, the Cathedral School, Peterborough, where they had been appointed in January 2011, a month before the Christchurch earthquake. Remember, we've already just mentioned the Christchurch earthquake appeal connected immediately into this, which means Christchurch twinned with where I was working, and it means the collider technology tying in with that as well. 9 companies, including the King's Cathedral Company, and they resigned from the company in 2023 as I escalated the exposure of the fraud. The company had been incorporated in December 2010, a month after CERN Limited was created, and it connects immediately to the fraud by Stone King LLP on page 17 of his incorporation document. Andrew Peter Bolton connects the Cathedral Company, Peterborough, to, what's that say? Dak Beechcroft LLP, making an immediate connection to Deborah Fleming, who initiated my removal from Exbourne Manor, and an immediate connection into the friend that was positioned by me, Guy Briscoe, that links immediately to the Hampstead Child Abuse Inquiry. Deborah and her husband, John Fleming, are connected to religious establishments, and there are various religious connections from the directors of the Cathedral School. I cannot confirm that the Albert Pike... Oh, that's it. Right, I think we're there. I'm going to come to some questions. It's probably much later than I hoped to be. Let's have a look at the latest comments, see if there's any questions for me before I head off. Thanks for your message there. Really appreciate it, Wildflower. Thank you. Big Dylan is coming. Hide. What do you mean by that? Well, I'm just going to go back, see if there's any questions. I'm definitely not handsome, but thank you very much. Sleep well, Gary. The angels are around you. Good night. Thank you so much, Darlene. Appreciate it. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Lisa, maybe you should stop. Just see if there's any questions. Why are you in a cave doing this? I'm not in a cave. I'm in a tent because I'm trying to stay safe, because the evidence is the most important evidence on earth at the moment, by far. Just going back over the comments, see if there's anything I can answer. Me too. I'm on a holiday in Egypt and an hour ahead and being attacked by mozzies. Oh, I hope you're having a lovely time. Never been to Egypt. So it's very relevant to all of this. JP Morgan was involved in the archaeology of the Egyptian pyramids. Massively relevant in all of this. There's Egyptian companies. You remember the address that I said in right near Bournemouth, connecting to the Doomsday Cult, which is the same address, St Stephen's Court, St Stephen's Road. You have the main Egypt company in the fraud, which was started in 1888, connects directly to that point of the evidence. Were they all ginger, Gary? Someone's put. I don't know, but there is a redhead connection in this. There is a redhead. There's actual redhead companies that become relevant, and they're linked to the connected to the Skinner's Academy. Now, I suspect it's possible. You know, we've got a lot of redheads that are severely implicated in this. You know, you've got Prince Harry, you've got Sarah Ferguson, massively connected into bloodstock companies. No, it's no coincidence that she's suddenly now closing a load of her companies after I've exposed this, and her daughter Eugenie is stepping away from the anti-slavery organisation. Well, I've researched the anti-slavery organisation. It goes straight into everything again. So this is all because of my exposure. I'm just going to come to the latest comments that you put in, I think. Oh, yes. Right. Sorry. Yes. Someone's put the Stuarts were all gingers. Okay. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, I'm aware that Mary, Queen of Scots, was. And was Queen Victoria? I think she's linked to the Stuarts, according to the research. I think gingers may be Nephilim seed, someone's put. Redheads originate from Normans and Vikings, if I'm correct. Okay. Yeah, they seem to be they do. There's even, like I said, there are redhead companies that are coming up at specific points in this. I'm in central Idaho, and I'm curious, can you link Act Blue to all of this? I haven't seen it, but I'll screenshot it, see if I can. Or if it's a big organisation, it will be connected to it. Or they've centralised all large organisations to this. Most the organisations that you see are part of this. Open up a portal, black hole, bring bad entity through. I actually don't think it's about that. I think that's a deception. I think this is about either it's all a deception, or they're trying to create black holes through the technology. Or certainly there's a risk of a black hole, let's put it that way, according to the research. Why would you even do it? Why would you even do it if there's any chance that there's a black hole? Question, Gary, you mentioned Osborne. Is that same as Osborne with the craze? Yes, I think it is. I'm still doing a bit of research around that. But yes, maybe it's you that sent me the evidence about that, actually. Somebody sent some information about an Osborne being linked to the craze via, yeah, it was probably you. And you had for Queen Victoria, she had a bodyguard who was linked to the Osbornes. yes, I think that's all going to be connected. That's all going to be connected. The Krays are very relevant. I'm now finding connections to the Krays and Bournemouth, not massively significant connections, but there are connections there to Bournemouth, which would make sense. That's where Jimmy Savile was living. I did, yes. Oh, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Dido, for sending me that then. Yeah, that I need to do a little bit more research around that, but it is relevant because of the links into the Osborne House. I think that's why Osborne House was probably called Osborne House. Okay, it was named because of Queen Victoria. And obviously, she links to the Osbornes via the bodyguard. Osborne House, the Isle of Wight home. Yes, very, very relevant. And she died there in 1901. And that is the same year that the White House in America gained its name. And I found connections to the American government from the White House Limited and the Isle of Wight. So Hampshire is, I think, the connection to Hampshire in Dorset, why this is so important. Sorry, Hampshire. For whatever reason, what I'm seeing is there's mention of Southampton being in Dorset. So I think Dorset was a bigger area than what it is or something, and the borders changed. But I think the relevance of Hampshire in England to worldwide importance is because of this Portals company. And that's why I think everyone's talking about Portals. It's because of this Portals company. I don't think it's about portals being created. I think someone was trying to give me the information to find the link to Portals and the currency producer, which started in Hampshire in 1711, and then 1724 became the currency producer for the Bank of England. Whilst I'm thinking about it, one of the things I didn't mention earlier is Varney the Vampire, which I was talking about the last couple of nights. Very, very relevant in all of this. Okay, that was where most vampire characters came from in the 18th century. When they were printing the stories for Varney the Vampire, they had the world's largest printing factory in relation to it. That's how important it was. And guess where it was? In Sittingbourne in Kent, which is right near where I was living, not at that time, but previously, before me. And it's right near key people involved in this, including Emma Ailing, my friend's wife, who was called Emma Lee and is linked to Ingenious Film Partners too. Now that was created by the same person that created Sweeney Todd. And we've got the Sweeney Todd group as well, linking into the Royals, to the Vatican, to the BBC, to the De Reas, to the death of Jill Dando, which means it's now linking in with vampirism because of this connection to Varney the Vampire, the same creator, and it was by Edward Lloyd. And Edward Lloyd, I think, is going to be a relative of a Lloyd. What was his first name? Don't know his first name. Somebody Lloyd married a Fleming in 1920. I think that then created the link between Lloyd's Bank and the Flemings who are involved in international banking. And that then ties that to vampirism. And when I mean vampirism, I mean the drinking of the blood, but not necessarily like in the movies. I think that was, and even when I urge you all actually go and read up about Varney the Vampire. Very interesting, and read the whole thing, and you'll see that it's almost as if they're talking about them in the situation as if they were him. And they talk about almost living a hell on earth because they can't seem to stop themselves being involved in the blood. Now, the evidence is very, very strong that the whole system is specifically been set up around the blood and the organ harvesting and how that relates to extending lives. That appears to be a massive, important element in all of this. And where was I going to go with that? And it had the world's biggest printing factory. And I suspect that is going to be a relative of the Fleming and Lloyd connection from the 1920s. I'm almost certain. I'm just doing a little bit more research on it, but that makes absolutely sense. But Varney the Vampire ended up committing suicide because he couldn't live with the fact that he was having to drink blood. So that could be the situation that those running our system are in at the moment, and this could be why somebody did a video about the Freemasons saying they are living in hell, and she even mentioned feeding off of the vulnerable. Okay, she didn't say it in terms of the blood, but I suspect that's what they were trying to tell us via that video. She says they are in hell, and she says you need to free us from this. You need to take control away from us, away from the Freemasons, And she said the way you do that is you need to take control of the media and the information. Take away our control of the media, and you will gain back the freedom, and you will also free us at the same time. I think the blood is a very big element in all of this, or it's a deception for me to uncover. However, it's all the way through the research in a trail of evidence, and it would explain a lot. It would explain a lot. Why they set up the healthcare systems in the first place, create the healthcare problems, okay, using their technology, get you to then go into the hospitals, and then they take your blood. This would explain the link to the Muslim faith group, where they drain the blood from the animals, okay, which ties into the immigration agenda and everything you're seeing going on at the moment, because they can then refine that blood and pretend that it's human blood and swap it out for human bloods in full body transfusions. But of course, they have to refine it to a way that the people that've had the transfusion will live to a certain for a certain length of time. Otherwise, it'll be too obvious. Just going to go to the latest comments. I've probably missed some. What's CERN going to do to us? Well, the evidence suggests that they were trying to create a black hole to tie it in with the end of the Mayan calendar and create an inversion of creation in 2012. That's what it looks like they were trying to do on the 4th of April, or they were trying to build up to doing it, to tying in with the 21st of December 2012, the end of the Mayan calendar, or they've set it all up for me to expose it because of who I am. I have to consider that. But at the moment, there's too much evidence to suggest that's what they were doing. There's an article that suggests that Stephen Hawking was even deliberately trying to get CERN to create a black hole here on Earth. Why would you even try and get why would you even do that? Why would you even do that? And now we've got the evidence where they're trying to build a bigger one, which suggests they failed to do what they wanted in 2012, and they're trying to funnel the money through into the technology to carry out that task. And it's no coincidence, everybody, that the Large Hadron Collider is shutting down in July until 2030. Okay, so it looks as though they're potentially trying to increase the technology at the Large Hadron Collider to be able to facilitate the end of what they wanted to do in 2030. Now, that would, I believe, that would be just a select few that will know that agenda. So they've got to cover up the agenda. A way that you could do that is you say they're creating portals, or they're trying to create time wormholes or whatever, as a deception to hide the real threat to all of creation through that technology. That is what makes sense. And why would they end technology? Why would they end creation? Because it fits the falsified prophecies. Okay, it seems you've got a group of people potentially linking in with what's it called, Lutheranism, who believe that the prophecy within the scripture is it, and everything, it has to happen, it has to be about that. Now, if that's not happening by the creator, they feel as though it seems they've got to bring it about. Well, of course, the prophecy says tribulation period on earth, which is earthquakes, tsunamis, and the end of time, or the end of times. Well, the only way that you can end time, okay, is you have to create a point of singularity or a black hole to end time. It's the only way you can do that. So this is what it seems. If I was going to say anything, what the collider technology it's about creating a point of singularity or a black hole as an inversion of creation. And this is why you had Stephen Hawking studying the theory of the expansion of the universe, and that links to the Satanic Temple of the Church of Satan, links to the year 1966. Go and type it in. Go and type in Stephen Hawking. You'll see the thesis in the box there about the information. Look at the expansion of the universe. You'll see a date of 1966 right next to it. 1966 is the year of the foundation of the Church of Satan. Okay. He then came out in 1971, Stephen Hawking, and he said about the Hawking radiation linking with black holes. He came out with it in 1971. The same year that the World Economic Forum was created. Suddenly, all the prices go through the roof around the world, according to the research. It looks as though they were trying to funnel the money through after Stephen Hawking identified what he did with the black holes. They used the World Economic Forum to funnel the money around the world through the World Economic Forum, unelected people running the world, and funnel it into the collider technology. The incorporation document for the Stephen Hawking, if you go and type in Stephen Hawking's company's house, you'll see there's 3 companies that will link to his name. There is another record, I think, linked to him. If you look at the one Space space cosmic time or something like that. I can't remember what it is, but it's got space and time in it, I think, or space and cosmic. Go and look at the incorporation document. You'll see the name Nigel Leonard Blood with the London Law Agency on there, and I think it's got 84 Temple Chambers, Temple Avenue. Then go and look at Jesus Copyright Limited, linked into Elon Musk. It's actually on artificial, if you type in Intelligence Artificial Company's House, go into that, you will see on the incorporation document the exact same name, okay, of Nigel Leonard Blood, okay, which means a direct link to Stephen Hawkins. And look at the previous name for artificial intelligence, or Intelligence Artificial Limited, sorry, it was Elon Musk Limited. Okay, that creates that link to Elon Musk straight to Stephen Hawkins. Elon Musk was involved in trying to create the new collider technology. He bought a boring company, a company that is able to tunnel underground, because these are all built right underground, okay, the colliders. Elon Musk was involved in that. He then, after I started exposing all of this, although he's been involved in the attempts to create a bigger hadron collider, as I was exposing everything, he came out and said CERN's going to end the world. Well, he's involved in it. So now it is possible, as I've said, they've put all of this evidence for me specifically because of who I am, to expose it, to consider it a risk, to then come forward and change humanity forever. That's possible. But do I take that risk? No. We need to make sure that we prevent any risk to creation and the children in particular. Now, they're telling us they're harming the children, so we have to consider the children element is real in all of this, and therefore we have to consider that everything else is real. And they have a criminal system in place. We can't live with a criminal system where those that are in positions of leadership are actually have a criminal system enabling them to exploit and victimize the innocents. We cannot allow that. Calcify the pineal gland. Someone's put the brain, which connects to us to God. Yeah, I've heard about that. There's a lot of evidence suggesting that's the case. That with the I've forgotten the name of it. What's in the water? Not alkaline. Someone will know. What are they putting in the water? It's gone. Someone will know. Anyway, you know what I mean. Putting something in the water to calcify the fluoride. Thank you very much. Yeah, fluoride's what I was thinking. All the water companies are centralised to this criminal network, so there's no accountability and liability. They could be putting whatever in the water. Whatever way you look at this, everyone, you've got to get rid of the system. You must get rid of the system. You can't be living under the system. It's very easy to rectify it. You've just got to literally follow a strategy to compel a change in the system. We know what the system needs to be now. Someone's put to kill God. As an inversion of creation. If you look at, this is why I think a ritual appears to have taken place at the Shiva statue in August 2016 after the Pizzagate scandal became exposed. The Shiva statue represents creation, in other words, expansion of the universe, which Stephen Hawkins was studying, and it also represents destruction, which if you wanted to invert it and create the end of time and fit the falsified prophecies by creating earthquakes and tsunamis, you would need to create a point of singularity. Well, the only way you can do that is through a black hole. So that would explain why the black hole evidence is so relevant in all of it. They want to storm God's realm, someone's put. The other thing about, when you look at Christianity, I think they've massively infiltrated it with the Holy Communion. For example, drinking the blood of Christ and eating the body of Christ. Why would you eat and drink somebody or something that you are aspiring to be? That's the ultimate mockery of the Creator. Now, I think they've deliberately put that as a mockery to the Creator, as an inversion of respect and of holding aspiration towards that creator, which is good. This then ties in with why they had if you can't actually eat the creator literally, then what's the next closest thing to the creator? Children. What's the next closest thing to innocence and righteousness? Children. So this could explain why you have this link into. Now, I'm not saying it's happening. The evidence suggests it is, all right. But I have to say it could be a deception for the right person to expose it. But they had a statue that was erected in was it 1300s or 1500s in Bern in Switzerland, in the capital, and it was a baby eater, literally a character eating a baby. That becomes very relevant to my evidence. I've researched that as well. If God isn't real, then why is it all satanic? If God isn't real, then why is it all satanic? Oh, the Creator's 100% real. I know that because there's things I just know I'm being guided by the Creator. Either that or they're controlling space, time, and matter for me to acquire my evidence. And in doing so, they're exposing themselves. So it doesn't make sense. So therefore, you come back to the Creator is guiding me. So I know there's a Creator, and I know the Creator's good, because otherwise we wouldn't have moral conscience. All right, and moral conscience is where this has all gone wrong. And like I said earlier, if there's one thing you can, say what is the problem in all of this, it's the separation from moral conscience. That is what the problem is, because the moral conscience makes you, in a rational state of mind, treat everyone else how you want to be treated. Well, as soon as you get rid of that, or love thy neighbour, which is, a foundation to the Christianity element of things. They have definitely infiltrated Christianity. They've infiltrated Judaism. They've infiltrated the Muslim faith group. They may have even created them. All. However, if you're going to look at anything, then you have to look at the evidence is there that suggests that Jesus was a real person. Or I think all three main faith groups, Abrahamic faith groups, suggest that he was a real person. And we have to consider that love thy neighbour is literally the foundation of this, isn't it? If you were to literally put one point across, it's love thy neighbour and have moral conscience there as your foundation. And if that had really happened from the beginning, we wouldn't be in this position, would we? Let's face it. But I think what's happened is the moral conscience has been removed through the substance abuse over time, with alcohol, with drugs. You then start become distant from your clarity, which was given to you through the Creator, and therefore you lose that rationality. Well, as soon as you start using the rationality, you start committing sin because you're not following your moral conscience. As soon as you start committing that sin, you end up, and if you don't want to call it sin, let's just say doing things wrong that you wouldn't want done to you, and you do it to others. That then ultimately is self-destruction, isn't it? It's fulfilled self-prophecy destruction on yourself, because you then feel the guilt when you are then in a rational state of mind. We all know what it's like if you've had too much to drink and you speak to someone in a way you would never normally speak to them. The next day you feel really bad about it, don't you? Now, on a bigger scale, if you do something more serious, lots of people want to end their lives. They can't live with the fact that they have done something wrong. So it's getting it back to, and the whole system is set up, remember, deliberately to remove that rationality and that moral conscience. It's very clear. They're behind the drug trafficking. They're behind the alcohol. They're behind the problems that the resolutions that they're positioning for those problems that they're creating. So it creates a motive to continue the problems, right? Because they are using the money through the criminal network to create the problems and react and create a fake solution. But of course, there's no motive to really resolve the problems, because if they resolve all of the problems, they're not going to be able to defraud the masses through this financial system. You see, now they have lost their rationality. It's very clear those running the system have separated from the Creator, possibly because of, as they've got involved in the drugs, and a lot of them will be taking opium and all sorts of drugs, all right, so they're not thinking rationally, all right, so that means they're just separating themselves, and they've got a constant supply of this through the money that they're defrauding from the masses, you see. So it's a vicious circle. And they are probably feeling awful about what they're part of, but don't know how to stop it because of the blood oath that they're under, the blood of the children they're involved in, and the international drug trafficking, the addictions that they've created. And they're also probably watching this thinking, Gary's making absolute sense. He's trying to save everyone, which I am. I'm even trying to save them in this. And I pray for their forgiveness in this. And I believe, and if there is any way that I am who it looks as though I am, I can promise you, if I have any say in what, I'm not saying I do, but if there's any way I have a say in a judgment after death in all of this, providing everybody comes forward in truth, transparency, repentance, and a commitment to change this, then I think spiritually everybody can be forgiven. Not necessarily the consequences they have to face on this earth, but spiritually I believe they can all be forgiven. But they're not doing that. You know, they've had 4 years, and I've been saying this for the last 2 years. You just need to come forward in truth and repentance and commitment to change. And that makes sense, doesn't it? That makes sense. And we have to, some people say, look, we are the creator, we are God. Well, no, we're not. We're not obviously the creator. I didn't possibly, I didn't personally create nature, did I? So I know I'm not the creator. And if I start thinking I'm the God, well, I make mistakes, I commit sin, I'm tempted into the wrong things, I become irrational. Okay. So if I start saying I'm the creator, then you're then saying the creator is going to potentially victimize others through that separation from moral conscience. So you're setting yourself up for failure. So then you come back to, well, you need to have faith in a creator beyond our understanding, matter, time, and space, and believe in that, because that then sets you on that narrow path of trying to, or widens that path really, because as soon as you accept that and you accept there's consequences for going against your moral conscience, then that keeps you on the path of righteousness or as close as you can to it. If you don't have that belief in a consequence, and it's almost like, and I don't want to say this, it's almost like having a police officer or policeman watching over you all of the time, but it actually being to protect you from others and others from you, right? But so you don't feel this guilt which will consume you if you do things wrong. So some people say, oh, why should we have to believe in something to then go to a better place when we'll die? Well, you're making that choice to believe, first of all. Like I said at the beginning of this, it really is a choice. You get to look at creation and say, right, science isn't explaining how that was created. They don't know for sure. There's design, it looks like, in everything. So it could be a creator. What am I going to go with here? What's the most likely thing? Most likely there's going to be a creator. Now, if you choose not to, and you try and put a barrier, then you're making that choice. You are making that choice to convince yourself there isn't a creator, and then ultimately you choose not to potentially go to somewhere better when you die. But you're choosing it. You're being given that choice by free will. So when you hit a point in your life and you have an opportunity to consider, is that a creator, or is that something divine working, or is that just coincidence? I always look at it now as creator, and there are things I cannot explain unless it is creator over the last 5 years, and I think it is all a choice of free will. And I think if anyone, a lot of people say, well, why isn't the creator just showing themselves now? Would you really believe anything if you really saw it now? What would it take for you to believe? All right, a big person in the sky, well, you'd think that's a hologram, and the creator probably knows this now. The creator, I believe, has already positioned the evidence there for you to see it within nature, within your moral conscience. When you stick to it, it's when you deviate from it. So I think it's a choice. Oh, bear with me. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I think I think whatever, it's interesting when you say to people that don't have a belief, what is it you want to happen for you to believe? And you pretty much guarantee that nothing will make them believe, because they'll just come up with an excuse that it's not real anyway. And I think, as I said, I think the creator knows that. I think don't get me wrong, I understand if people don't want to believe in a creator, but to me, it just does not make sense. So I think there's more than enough evidence just in nature, but obviously we've separated from it, and we've been pushed into being more technological, materialistic and scientific, which is obviously the inversion of the creator. I don't know if anyone's got any questions. Anyone want to ask any questions? What was the thing? Yes, the document, I'm going to be sending it out tomorrow. I'll give my email address again in a moment. Not tomorrow, so I'm going to be doing the document tomorrow. It probably won't be done tomorrow because it's just too time consuming, so I'm going to be sending it out as soon as I can. That's what I'm going to be focusing on now, putting all of this stuff in that we've talked about. What was I going to say about, I can't remember now, it's gone. Yeah, I'm okay. Don't worry about me. I'm going to be all right in this, whatever happens. I'm okay. I'm not scared. If I get taken out, I get taken out at the end of the day. But what I am scared about is not doing the right thing. And I want to go out knowing that I've literally done the right thing for the right reasons, and for those that are suffering the most and don't even have an opportunity to speak out about this. If the children are really suffering to the extent it looks like, then the only right thing for me to do is live in a tent so that I can protect myself and keep building the evidence and exposing them all. It's the only right thing for me to do. And I'm still incredibly positive. I'm still motivated. Obviously it's going to get harder as I'm getting older if this doesn't get resolved and we're still all around at this time. But I think there's big things happening. When we look at the St. Puy X, they've got something planned, not necessarily bad, but looks like it's tying into the bloodline of Christ for July this year. St. Puy X is the organisation that started in 1970. So the year after Charles became the Prince of Wales, and the year before the World Economic Forum began. And I think, I think this year is going to be potentially pretty big in some ways. I did think that last year though, so who knows? But yeah, interesting times. Definitely the most important time in all of humanity since creation. I think we're living through 100%. It's really quite an incredible time and an incredible journey, and especially those that are at the front line of this, and if you like, really trying to make the change and expose all of this. And exposure is key, everybody. Exposure really is key. Exposure could just change this completely through my evidence. It could actually stop and change everything. Remember, they've tried to make me believe that I can change this, which again supports that they know who I may be in this. And that was in relation to the asteroid that might have hit Earth in 2032. I'll just talk about that quickly in case you haven't already heard me say it, and then I'm going to go. So in last year, I think it was, actually, I researched the doomsday clock, and I researched it coming in from the Company's House records, looking at the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. Found a connection to it. I haven't got it in front of me, otherwise I'll go through it with you. It's really very significant in relation to all of this. And I made a mistake on one of the acronym searches. So there was a 3-letter acronym word I was looking for a company, and I made a mistake on one of the letters, and it led me to 2032 Limited. So I thought, wow, okay, we've now got this link, doomsday clock 2032. That's 7 years from now until because it was last year, 7-year tribulation period. So maybe they're going to tie an apocalyptic event, potentially an asteroid. And the reason I thought an asteroid is because Darren Brown was involved in Apocalypse, the television show in 2012, same year as the end of the Mayan calendar in relation to CERN. And that was where he created a fake event to make somebody believe that it was the end of the world for an asteroid hitting the Earth. And that asteroid was called Swift. I mean, I actually now think this was deliberate for probably for me, everybody. You know, it's a huge thing to say, but Swift is the name of the Swift International Transaction System that links immediately to Export Manor, where my investigation began, everybody. All right, they've got a company, I think it's Swift UK and Ireland, I can't remember which one. It's got Jordans and Sons on its incorporation document, the exact same company as Export Manor Freehold Limited. So this is the international transaction system that the world governments were using in relation to the criminal network and the fraud. So anyway, I found this connection to 2032. I went on a live stream that night and said, it was on just an ordinary citizen's live stream, and said, look, I've got a feeling they're gonna try and pull off a falsified, prophetic, apocalyptic event potentially involving an asteroid in 2032 to time with the end of the tribulation period, because it says at the end of the 7-year tribulation there'll be the second coming of Christ. Anyway, I'm talking with various different people about all of this. 2 days later, someone in my family sends me a picture and said, Gary, have you seen the front pages? No. There's an asteroid going to be hitting the Earth potentially in 2032. And I verified it, checked it, and there it was. Front page of Daily Star, I think. Asteroid hitting the Earth, 2032 potentially. But this asteroid hadn't been seen. Sorry, they claimed to have seen it in December 2000. And yes, I'm a vegetarian. But I did eat meat when I was in prison, which I feel terrible about. But other than that, I haven't had meat for about 8 years. So yes, I would love to be a vegan, and I'm working on that. I'm now not having certain things with dairy. So I am working on being a vegan. And do you know what? Since I've stopped eating meat, healthiest I've ever felt. Healthiest I've ever felt. I actually think it's helped me psychologically, physically. I haven't lost weight. I've actually felt better morally. The reasons I stopped eating meat for three reasons. First of all, I was led to believe it was having an environmental impact. Secondly, I love animals so much, and there's so much evidence to say that the animals are suffering through that process. And also this is a fourth one really, but the financial element of it. It's quite expensive meat. And so the health, environment, and animals. Yeah, health, environment, and animals, because I'd heard it wasn't so healthy. And no going back, I tell you, it's just so pleased I don't eat meat. Honestly, it really is a really one of the best things I've ever done in my life. One of the best things I've ever done in my life. But I do need to cut down on certain things. Like I still eat a little bit of cheese. I've cut down on cheese, and there's a couple of other things. But anyway, so there was no articles at all about them having seen that asteroid prior to my live stream. Now, that tells us they were listening to the live stream and they wanted me to believe that I could have the potential outcome to change everything. There's no other reason why they would do it. Why would they have done that otherwise? So, you know, that also supports potentially who I am in all of this. And the connection to the Lord of the Rings side of things is massive as well, in relation to my ring. And the ring, the original writer of the Lord of the Rings was living and died in Bournemouth, where my investigation began. And he wrote the books for the Lord of the Rings, and they came out in 1954. 1954 is when CERN was originally founded, linking to the Large Hadron Collider, which links back to me, again, via the research, because the creator for the World Wide Web was Tim Berners-Lee. And my family, when I was growing up, are linked, it looks like, to CERN. The World Wide Web, and Tim Berners-Lee created the World Wide Web for CERN. Sorry, I got that wrong. Tim Berners-Lee created the World Wide Web. He worked at CERN in 1980, and then in 1989 is when he created the World Wide Web for CERN. Tim Berners-Lee ended up living in Wimborne in Dorset, where the Flemings lived that initiated my removal from Exmoor Manor. My wife's friend also lives in Wimborne. Guess who she works for? Siemens. Siemens links to CERN. Siemens links to the via the Edge Foundation to Jeffrey Epstein. After he worked at CERN, Tim Berners-Lee worked for a printing company in Bournemouth and in Ferndown. If you go back to Kent, 3.5 hours away, where I was living around 1989, when the World Wide Web was created for CERN, my three members of my family were working for a photocopying company, and it created the world's first particular part of a photocopier. So it would have been very, very relevant to the World Wide Web and photocopying. Well, Tim Berners-Lee was working for photocopying companies down in Bournemouth. When I researched the company that my family used to work for, it goes straight to Wimborne, in Dorset, where Tim Berners-Lee lived, where Deborah Fleming lived, the initiator of my removal, and where my wife's best friend, Leanne Hawksworth, lives, and works for Siemens in that area. That's not going to be a coincidence, everybody. And then when you come in from the World Wide Web, that's how I found the connection to Prince Harry, linking in with the shoes via JP Morgan. The Harry's Shoes Company was originally incorporated days after the World Trade Center building collapsed, and then it changed its name to Harry's of London, or Harry's London, within 6 days after Madeleine McCann went missing. This obviously links into the Red Shoe Society and the Red Shoe Club, linking in with the Vatican, with the information of the apparent skin of the children being worn in the shoes. JP Morgan, that connects to that company, all right, and royal family companies, so we can assume that's going to be Prince Harry. JP Morgan connects to the Portuguese Chamber of Commerce company that has Rolls-Royce on its incorporation document that we mentioned earlier in the research this evening. That connects to the Italian Chamber of Commerce. They're both criminal companies. JP Morgan is within the Italian, I think it's within the Italian Chamber of Commerce company. That connects to the Mazzini Earthquake Company. There's a Mazzini Garibaldi company. They tried hiding the connection, or they did it knowing that I would find it. Within the finding history, I found a connection to an Italian earthquake company. Literally, it had an earthquake name, tying into the Albert Pike letter written to Mazzini, linking to the skin of Madeleine McCann, linking to Prince Andrew, linking to Prince Harry and Prince Andrew via the research, and Donald Trump and Jimmy Savile and the earthquake companies and CERN and Jimmy Savile, all tying to my families in a very small section of that research when you put it all together. It's huge, everybody. This is really, really huge. And then there was an article in July 2019, the same month that Jeffrey Epstein was arrested, that Harry was wearing the same pair of shoes for a prolonged period of time. The same month, within days, actually, of Jeffrey Epstein being arrested. I think it was 4 days after Jeffrey Epstein was arrested. And then then the cell towers were erected the month afterwards in Wuhan. And then in January, suddenly, Harry leaves for America with Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle, isn't it? Harry was wearing the skin of Madeleine. Yet, according to the research, it's pretty overwhelming evidence that suggests he was wearing the skin of Madeleine McCann. And I've now got, because there's loads of skin companies. Now, it's possible they know who I am, and they've set it up for me to find it. But the evidence is there. It's really quite overwhelming, everybody. And then I've now linked that link to Prince Harry connects directly to Harvey Weinstein, directly to Jeffrey Epstein, directly to Walt Disney, okay, via the research, and it looks like an alias name being used by the accountant for Export Manor, where my investigations began. It's massive. It looks like he was wearing the skin of Madeleine McCann, according to the research, in his shoes. And this then ties in with the Savile Row, which is a street in London where they are linked to hunting attire and hunting organisations. This then starts to tie into the hunting of children on estates in all of this. And Savile Row links to the Nutters of Savile Row, and also a hunts company. I can't remember what it's called. It's got it written down. And they were specifically tailoring for hunting individuals or people involved in hunts on estates for the fox hunting. So including royalty, prime ministers, presidents. It talks about princes of Wales. It included William Pitt, who was the prime minister of the United Kingdom in the 1700s. He was the Earl of Chatham, where I was born, and they named Chatham House after him, which is where the Royal Institute of Foreign Affairs takes place now, which is a very important think tank in all of this. No, there's too much evidence. You need to see the evidence. You haven't seen the document, have you, I presume? You need to look at all of the evidence before you suggest that it's not the case. It's really quite overwhelming, because it links to the Pizzagate scandal as well, which then ties into the skinning of the young girl at the involving the frazzle drip video of Hillary Clinton. And then you've got links into the Skinners Academy, links to Ghislaine Maxwell. You've got the Worshipful Company of Skinners. Okay, that was quite an old organisation linked into the apparent skinning and fur of animals, but its motto is something similar to "Glory be to God." It ties in with the falsified prophecies. That's why in the skinning of children alive, it's all tying in with this. That organisation is now involved in educational establishments. Why would a skin company? Why would I have acquired evidence? All right, that they've put there. Okay, they're providing me the evidence to support everything I'm saying, if or for the right person, like I've said to you. So either it's all a deception, but the evidence is there to suggest that it's true. There's just too much evidence. Ghislaine Maxwell linked to Skinner companies. That Skinner companies connects to a Jewish organisation. Okay, you've got the video of Rabbi Frank Schinkel. What's his name? Not Frankenstein. Talking about putting the remains of children within the burgers and within the food. Now that could be a deception. It could all be a deception. However, the evidence is there to support it. Why did Harry suddenly go to? There's too many connections, too many things. You've got loads and loads of evidence of that. What was I going to say about it? It links into the Hampstead child abuse inquiry with the 2 children that claimed they were being made to decapitate children, babies, after they'd been injected with drugs and then drinking the blood of the children. That ties into this. You've got the Elm Guesthouse inquiry. Children were apparently murdered there. You've got the Outward Bound Club linking in with Jimmy Savile, connected almost immediately into Donald Trump, where somebody's actually done a video claiming they witnessed a child being murdered and they were sexually abused on that Outward Bound camp. That links to CERN. That links to CERN almost immediately through the Company's House records. So, you know, I'd love to say I can't believe any of this is real, but I've got 50 reference police reports mentioning all of this. None of them are even responding. Not even responding. They're not even arresting me. They're not even arresting me. I've failed to attend court. They booked my court date on the 18th of November. 1 and 8 equals 9. 9 and 11. Date of the 9/11 World Trade Center. Donald Trump was positioned 45th president in 2017 after the Pizzagate scandal was exposed. 4 and 5 equals 9. He then came back in as the 47th president. 4 and 7 equals 11. That's 9/11, everybody. It's the date of the World Trade Center disaster. The adrenochrome document has an address on it. That address goes straight to Trump Towers in New York. Of the blood of the tortured children, a chart between the ages of, I think it's 7 and 13, whether they're still alive, whether they've committed suicide, how much their blood's worth, what blood type they are, where they're being held in detention centres around the world. The research from the company on that goes to Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited and all of the other companies I'm exposing. It's too much evidence, everybody. But if I am who it appears I am, Sorry about that. So remember, don't forget, they arrested me for disabling the cell tower as well. So it's not just the driving side of things. But they didn't allow me an interview. I haven't been interviewed, so they've gone against their own CPS guidelines. So that's deliberate. So they know they're in serious trouble. And thankfully, all the way through the process after my arrest, it was a very difficult time for me. Don't get me wrong. I thought I was going to die every day in prison. Practically, they made me feel as though I was going to be killed. So it was quite hot. And I mean, I don't like being in a small confined space either. So being in a cell and thinking you're going to be killed is not a very nice feeling at all. So I had 12 days of that. So so they refused to interview me. I requested 9 times to be interviewed, which they would have to do as part of their CPS guidelines. So they know they've messed up. So the only option they've got is to unalive me or to unlawfully imprison me, which it doesn't seem at the moment as though they're doing it. That could be because they're starting to realise they know who I am, or they're too worried about it. I don't know. They could obviously fine me if they really wanted. I know the amount of there'll be a lot of people in the police that are probably rooting for me, that can't speak out, but are actually know they're on my side, but they're not able to do anything about it. So that then they've got this problem. If they get rid of me, then it's going to create a lot of issues, for people. So this is why it looks like they're going down they were going down the financial route to shut me down financially. But even that, I'm trying to stop. So, no, of course I'm not. Of course I'm not a psyop or a handler. Have you looked at my document? I'm presuming you're compromised. Of course I'm not. There is nobody for me to work for. They're all involved. They're all involved. And I'm giving you a strategy. I'm giving you the evidence to resolve this. You need to be arresting these people. This is what needs to happen. And I would advise that you start with the solicitors, because they're all centralised to the paedophile information exchange and the Sweeney Todd group. But before I go, any other questions? Because I'm going to head off. And then tomorrow I'm going to be working on the evidence a bit more, getting it into the document. No more questions? Yeah, I'm okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Oh yeah, my email address. Thank you very much for reminding me. So my email address, if you want to grab a pen. No problem, Keir. Thanks very much for your comment. Kieran, no worries. Thanks for your comment. Okay, I'm just going to get a pen. You just want to get a pen? So I'm getting tired. Okay, my email address is GaryTheTruthSetsUsFree@gmail.com. That's GaryTheTruthSetsUsFree@gmail.com. Gary, 1R, TheTruthSetsUsFree@gmail.com. And the other one I'll give is Gary, 1R, Time for Freedom. The 4 is the FOR. Gary, Time for Freedom @proton.me. That's Gary, Time for Freedom @proton.me. I'll just give it out one more time, both of them. Gary, the Truth Sets Us Free @gmail.com. And Gary, Time for Freedom @proton.me. I think that's it for tonight. There's probably loads of things I haven't said, but thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your support. Thank you for those that are sending me information. Some of it's really proving critical. And I just hope that somebody starts acting on this. You've got the evidence, you've got the strategy. You just need to step away from your fear now, because like I said at the beginning of this, everything appears to be at stake. And, I think you have the ability to determine the outcome in all of this. So, please do something. Thanks very much, everyone. Take care of yourselves. All the best. Bye-bye.